Well, hey there, freaks. It's your boy Marty here from Myrtle Beach on a beautiful morning at Myrtle Beach. Has some great air flowing through a sun porch right now. I'm here to introduce this week's episode with American Hodl. Matt Odell and I sat down with American Hodl earlier this week. We got blindingly drunk and talked about Bitcoin and a bunch of other stuff. I think you freaks are really going to love it, and you're going to have an urge to go find some big titty bitches after. This episode of Tales from the Crypt was brought to you by the Cash App. You freaks already know all about them. If you listen to this podcast, if you live in America and you have not downloaded the Cash App yet and you're looking to buy Bitcoin, what the fuck are you waiting for? Cash App is the #1 finance app in the App Store for the last 2 years. And they're the only P2P payments app letting you buy Bitcoin right now. All right? So if you're looking to stack sats, download the Cash App. Use the code STACKINGSATS. That's one word, STACKINGSATS. You're going to get $5. $5 is going to go to Al's Lacrosse in Chicago. And then you're going to be able to stack sats, all right? So you can buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, send it from your wallet, send it from your Cash App to a personal wallet or from a personal wallet to the Cash App. On top of that, you're going to get their Boost program, which gives you a personalized debit card that is accepted anywhere Visa is accepted, and they have partner merchants that allow you to save when you use the Boost card when you spend it at their locations. So use the code STACKINGSATS, get your $5, send $5 to Al's, and then start stacking sats with the Cash App. This episode's also brought to you by Casa. I don't know if you freaks saw it earlier this week, but Casa dropped the Casa Node 2. It's a hot piece of hardware built on a Raspberry Pi 4. It's got a 1 terabyte SSD, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and they partnered with BTC Pay Server for this as well. So there's a BTC Pay Server integration. Casa is leveling up, and on top of that, if you want to engage in a multi-sig signature with Casa, a multi-sig setup with Casa, go check them out at keys.casa/keymaster and use the code TFTC. You're going to get up to $250 off your Casa memberships. These guys have membership tiers for multi-sig solutions for all types of situations, for your personal stash, for your business stash, no KYC, no altcoins. You have 100% control of your coins at all time, and they have very impeccably designed apps that make the experience very good. They have the Sats app, which has you check in with your node, and you can get Sats back by interacting with that app. If you want to throw your hardest OPSEC questions at Casa before you engage with their service, email them at membership@team.casa. And throw them your hardest OPSEC questions. They'll also walk you through a demo if you want to. They're nice. They're nice people. They don't bite. Reach out. If you're curious, just reach out. You can do it. Use the code TFTC. You're going to get up to $250 off. Check out Casa. Check out Cash App. And enjoy this episode. I'm sorry I got so drunk. I know I started rambling towards the end. When you get the good whiskey in front of Uncle Marty and he hasn't eaten much all day, he tends to get a little drunk. Enjoy, freaks.
Tales from the Crypt.
What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. It's your boy Marty Bent here on a Monday night drinking a very good whiskey. We got the wheat, grabbing the bottle right now. The Heritage Cask Club Distillers Reserve Small Batch 100% wheat whiskey from our friend Matt Case. Very rare bottle for a very rare occasion, for a very special occasion. I got the beautiful Matt Odell across from me. Matt, how are we?
Sup, freaks?
Happy Monday night.
Happy Mondays.
And we got the very special guest, American Hodl, in the house. American Hodl.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Pleased to be here, gentlemen.
Thanks for traveling. How was your flight?
It was nice, actually. I flew first class. High time preference, you know.
Boss. What was this high time preference experience like? Was it worth it?
Well, listen, I'm tall, so like I fucking need first class in my life. Okay, it's one of life's little luxuries. Like I'm not gonna be crammed in the back.
First humble brag.
Starting off strong.
Starting off real strong. Good cross country flight. You're here. Quick rip. 24 hours. I am honored, flattered even that we are here drinking whiskey right now, and you have ripped this trip.
I told you guys before this podcast, like you guys are my first in real life Bitcoiners. Okay, so my cherry has been popped by the TFTC boys.
I hope it's not disappointing.
You know, I feel a little violated, but in a good way.
It's an honor.
Yeah, we don't bite. It's a light touch, you know. But let's talk about it. How the hell did you get here? This is Tales from the Crypt. What is your tale? You have popped up on Twitter, created incredible stir, incredible memes, 6.15 Bitcoin roll after 6.15 for the futures of big titty bitches and eternal riches. How did you get to a point where you were memeing this random amount of Bitcoin into the mainstream?
Well, it's not random. There's a lot of people don't know this, but me and Plan B actually share an econometrics team, and when they're not working on S2F, they work on the big titty model for me. So it's not random. I'm offended you said that, but the way I got into Bitcoin was like a lot of people, I tried to buy drugs on the Silk Road, specifically DMT, because I wanted to see space aliens, and I was listening to a lot of Joe Rogan at the time. Back when the Joe Rogan show was like dangerous and insane, now it's become a little corporatized and commoditized,
I think he's had a few good episodes recently. I've been diving back into Joe. I was a hardcore Joe listener in like 2011 to 2014.
Me too.
And it definitely has strayed, but I think more recently he's gotten back to old Joe.
I don't know. When I heard Bernie Sanders come on and he didn't ask any questions.
I didn't watch the Bernie episode.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I was just like, ugh. But anyway.
Talking about the Black Keys episode. That's one in particular that stuck out to me.
That was a good episode also. Well, I first heard about Bitcoin from Duncan Trussell, well-known comedian who used to go on the Joe Rogan podcast all the time.
He has the best drunk history ever, Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, it's the greatest one. It's one of the original ones too. And it's funny. I was telling the story to Huddle on Twitter, and he came in and he was like, "Oh, dude, you found out about Bitcoin for me. Like, I have emails from people wanting to give me Bitcoin in 2012, and they fucking burn like fire because I didn't set up the wallet and accept any of them." And so he was like out there proselytizing, but he didn't even buy any himself or anything. So I found out about that. I found out about the Silk Road. I was like, I want to score drugs. Then I was like, I can't send drugs to myself through the mail. My father was an attorney, and so I was just hearing his voice in the back of my head being like, "Are you fucking retarded? Like, don't send drugs to yourself through the mail." Because there's this old story about Gilligan from Gilligan's Island. I don't know if you guys know this, but he was sending Marianne weed through the mail. So the chick that played Marianne, he was sending her like copious amounts of pot, and he got super duper busted. So the whole time I'm thinking about the story in my head. So I bail on it. I don't go through with it. Like 12 months later, my buddy comes to me at the bar and he's like, "Dude, fucking Bitcoin hit $1,200. Like, we could have been multimillionaires." I remember just staring at my beer all night, like just sad, like the music from the Incredible Hulk plays. And I'm just like, what could have been, So then like 18 months after that or so, I walk out of a casino with $5,000 from playing blackjack. And I'm like, now's the time. Because I felt like gambling still, right? And I was like, what seems like a stupid gamble? Bitcoin. And so that popped in my head, and I was like, I'm just going to sink all this $5,000 into Bitcoin. I bought like 23 Bitcoins or something at the time with it. And
so are you a big gambler? Like, do you?
I used to be a much bigger gambler, before Bitcoin, honestly, because Bitcoin like lowered my time preference, where I was like, that's stupid. Although I was just at the casino like a few days ago. I won another $5,000. So
well, it is interesting. That's one subsect of Bitcoiners that always fascinates me, is particularly within gambling, the poker crew that comes to find Bitcoin and become obsessed with Bitcoin, it seems.
Well, because in gambling, you have to manage your bankroll, right? Mm-hmm. And so you learn that through gambling, and you have to experience extreme volatility. So when you sit at the table, like especially when you sit at a blackjack table, the volatility is just fucking off the charts, man. Like I had a buddy, same buddy who came up to me and told me Bitcoin was at $1,200, and he had lost like $13,000 that he didn't have, had cash advanced his credit card, all this shit. Really bad situation. Nice. He had $200 left. He went to the table with it and turned that $200 into $21,000 and like fully came back. Like not only was he not down, he was up like 10 grand or whatever, In
the black by 8 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you learn to stomach this volatility, and you become emotionally dead inside to it. And I think that's what gambling does teach you. Like that's the benefit of gambling. But it would be a crime to say, like, I was a good gambler. I was just, like, so-so at best.
Well, this is one thing that fascinates. Like, how early did you get into gambling? Because I am somebody who never caught the gambling bug, and I was actually thinking about this more recently because I had my 10-year high school reunion, and I met up with some old classmates, and I was reminded that in my senior lunch table, a couple of the kids at my lunch table ran a book. And I remember how stressed out they were running a book when we were, like, 17, 16. It wasn't like... It was high school kids, like $20 bets and stuff like that. But I only ever put one bet that like the Eagles would cover against the Patriots. I think my senior year of high school, I won, but never got into it. Like what?
The worst thing that happened to me happened with gambling. Like I went to the casino on my 21st birthday and I did a 14 parlay. I can't remember what the teams were or whatever. And then like the Ravens barely covered. And I won like $1,500, and I was like, clearly I'm a genius. Like, clearly I'm the world's best gambler. And then I was chasing that dragon, which is what happens to a lot of gamblers, you know.
Yeah.
And gambling will like quietly ruin you, worse than drugs will, you know.
That's what, like, even when I worked at Barstool Sports, I mean, that's like a degenerate gambler's paradise. That's all they do all day. They really pivoted hard towards gambling, and I was sitting there. I was like, I don't know how you idiots I'm not calling them idiots, but I don't know how. Like, people can just throw thousands of dollars at football games every night and be okay with that. Like,
It's very similar to lifestyle inflation creep too, like where you used to get happy driving like a Honda Fit or whatever, and then you need a fucking Mercedes. You need to pull up in a Mercedes to feel good about yourself. You at first gambling $50 a hand seems like a lot of money, and then you just dead inside to that. That's like peanuts. It's nothing. And then you need to gamble $1,000 a hand.
It's like drugs.
Right. Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that creep, that inflation that comes up. That's what ruins people. And like drugs, like you can get down. The reason gambling is worse than drugs is because with drugs, you can just get down to rock bottom and that's it. With gambling, you can go below rock bottom. Like you can get in serious debt, bankrupt your family, bankrupt other people, like do identity fraud on them, you know, all sorts of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800. What is it, gambling? 1-800
Gamblers Anonymous.
Gamblers Anonymous.
Like Google that number and call it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Bitcoin kind of ruined gambling for me because like Bitcoin is just so crazy in
Oh,
terms
yeah.
of price action.
100%.
And it's like to sit at a blackjack table for like 5 hours just really isn't.
But it is
enjoyable
funny
to me anymore.
But it is funny, like how addicting it is and how volatile it is. I guess the gratification, like the potential for delayed gratification exists in Bitcoin, where I would argue it does not exist in. It's not as guaranteed in gambling, right? Like,
What is 0% guarantee? Like you're gonna lose your money in
You
gambling.
could do like a long. I guess like equivalent thing would be like a long-term sports bet,
Right, like you pick
Right.
somebody to win the season maybe or something like
or like
that.
4 seasons in the future.
Yeah.
If it was possible, no one has that line.
Yeah.
But that's what it would be like, right?
yeah.
I don't even, you know, maybe I'm crazy, but I don't even feel like Bitcoin is gambling. Like it just feels like a sure thing to me. And I know that like we're supposed to think adversarially and like, you know, that anything could fuck this whole experiment up, but like it feels super fucking inevitable to me. Then again, I'm not as smart as some of the people that come on here like Eric Voskel or, you know, whoever else that have issues with what might occur in the future.
Well, you'd be surprised that I wouldn't discount your own ability to be smarter than some people that you deem smart. That's what I learned when I worked in finance. It was like all these people I held on a pedestal, like, oh my God, you're the chief investment officer of so and so hedge fund. Meeting with them, you sit down, you talk to them for 2 hours. You're like, dude, wasn't as like didn't blow me away as much as I was
Just a
expecting.
person.
Just a person, exactly.
Did you ever see Margin Call? You ever see that movie?
No.
Kevin Spacey. You ever see that one? Jeremy Irons comes in and he's like the big swinging dick, you know, and like it's like a Lehman Brothers type firm and everybody's going under. And he goes, why do you think I sit in this big chair? You think it's because I'm smart? I'm not smart. I'm only here because I know when the music is going to stop. And right now it sounds like it's about to stop.
Yeah.
You know?
So let's dive into this. Like, what makes you so confident in Bitcoin? Like, what do you see? What drives your confidence?
You know, honestly, it's other Bitcoiners that make me so confident in Bitcoin. Like, and we're all of a similar age. We're all of a similar generation. And, you know, I meet a lot of other people in our generation that are not very high conviction. They seem to be lost. They don't know what they're aiming at. Like, I have friends that this is like a West Coast thing, but they just go to Disneyland all the time. And like, they're adult people. Like, stop fucking going to Disneyland. Like, you have no reason to be there.
They don't have like kids or anything. They just
go. I have a buddy who has a kid. He leaves his kid at home and goes to Disneyland on his own. Like, stop being a perpetual Peter Pan, you little fuck.
What?
I want to strangle this guy.
That's a weird hobby to have as an adult too.
poor kid that got left home.
Yeah.
Dude, this is a serious
Well, is
West
that-
Coast thing. Yeah.
Well, West Coast thing, millennial thing, if you will, like the Peter Pan never grow up.
Right.
Is
Totally.
Is that a thing? Does that exist? Is that does our generation live in our parents' basement? Does it have this drive to never grow up, or
Totally.
is
And,
that
yeah,
a situation that's been forced upon us, or is it laziness,
Well,
complacency?
we're complicit and we're responsible. And if you don't want to view yourself as complicit and responsible, then that's on you, you know, because Bitcoin exists. It's right here. Like, fucking stack some sats. Like, you know, you can take control of your life right now. You can take control of your monetary sovereignty right now.
Well, in your mind, how does Bitcoin let you do that? Like, what is stacking sats?
We're getting so deconstructive here. I like it.
Yeah, let's rip it. It's a Monday night. We got the pen out. We got the whiskey out.
Let's see. How does it let you do it? Well, just like, every single transaction you make across the network, like when you first start making them, they're really scary because you're like, if I send this money to some cyber criminal, like I'm never going to see it again. But then every time you know, transact or like make a transaction people say you're not allowed to make, or make a transaction across border seamlessly, you just I feel powerful. Maybe it sounds cheesy to say that, but I feel really powerful when I do that, you know?
I don't think it's cheesy at all. And that's one thing we've been talking about a lot more since we've been experimenting, particularly more Lightning, is that we've been making a lot more transactions than we have in the past. I was scared to send transactions only but a few months ago, but I feel more comfortable now.
Lightning just inherently feels more comfortable, right?
Yeah. It's actually been, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast yet, but through the merch sales, it's been interesting to see, number one, the amount of people willing to pay in Bitcoin, which actually shouldn't be interesting. But the first round, we probably had like 10% of sales paid in Bitcoin. This round of merch, it's probably like 15 to 20%. And of that, I would say 80% is via Lightning, like big $30 to $40 transactions.
If I want to pay with Bitcoin, I'd rather pay with Lightning.
Yeah.
Unless it was like over $100.
No, but it's been crazy to see, just observationally watching people interact with the store as they would without me pushing them in any direction, just using Lightning for like, again, $30 to $40 transactions.
Pretty big for Lightning.
Yeah, that's what I expect. Yeah, and it works seamlessly. It seems like that's the thing with our BTC Pay server. DJ set it up. It's running. We've had to upgrade a couple times, but it's been pretty much flawlessly running in the background, unabated, without having to update anything, which is good to see.
Yeah, it's always tricky with Lightning too, because you don't want to get ahead of yourself, right? Mm-hmm. We don't want to fall into the trap that everybody fell into in like 2013, 2014, where it was like, Bitcoin's free, it'll be free forever, because we don't know how the system is going to evolve, you know?
Right.
But it is super promising what's going on, and like gives me a lot of hope for, you know, I think Lightning is going to be front page news like 10 years from now, but that there's going to be a lot of work in that decade.
Will it even be in the news? It's just happening. It's just like something like behind the scenes, right?
True.
Like, well, most end users probably won't even.
It'll be abstracted away. Yeah, you're right. But I guess what I mean by that is
they'll just be using Bitcoin.
It'll be a big part of our lives.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
10 years from now.
Or something similar to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get heady here and like really talk about it. And something that I really want to dive into tonight is like, how much does Bitcoin take over like the conversation like across the world over the next decade? Like we have like big geopolitical movements happening. We have U.S. versus China versus Russia. We have the European banking crisis that seems to be looming. You have upheaval in the Mideast. You have terrible currencies in Latin America, and it's just tumult and chaos around the world, which has been the case probably every time or every moment throughout history. You could probably point to a lot of chaos, but it seems like particularly now there's a lot of chaos, and that's the question. Like, is Bitcoin going to be under the radar? Are we going to build out this infrastructure while this is going on, or do you think it becomes more part of the narrative?
Let me answer your question with a question. Since you put your first money into Bitcoin, has there been a single day where you haven't read something about Bitcoin, engaged with Bitcoin?
No.
Matt, what about you?
Not in a while.
Right.
Probably should take a break though.
Like, we're all fucking
note.
Obsessed with that. I think the world is going to be too.
But are we crazy?
Dude writes a newsletter every morning on it. He is one of the sources.
I think of myself as sane and rational.
I don't think I'm a source. I'm just a highlighter, if you will.
Right. But you said, like interact with a Bitcoin news item. Like the bent would be
right.
Yeah.
Me reading the bent is an interaction. You writing it is even more of an interaction.
Yeah, that's fair.
I read the bent every day.
Oh, thank you.
I
sir.
thought today's bent was very good.
Oh, thank you.
And that's one of the things that concerns me a lot as well. Just how are we going to make sure that people continue to care about decentralization into the future?
Yeah, so that's a great topic to talk about. So, bent this morning, what is it, October 7th?
Yeah.
Correct.
October 7th, 2019, at about 11:30 a.m., I posted an issue of Marty's Bent. And it was, I highlighted Udi Werthmeyer's tweet, which was a quote of Greg Maxwell on Reddit, where somebody posited, like, are you guys worried about 51% attacks? Which I think the person who commented was like, I think this is like Bitcoin's biggest attack vector. And Greg Maxwell came on and said, I really don't think that's Bitcoin's biggest attack vector. I think Bitcoin's biggest attack vector is Bitcoiners in the future not understanding the need to, I'm paraphrasing here, the need to protect trade-offs and assurances that enable Bitcoin to survive. And
Apathy, basically.
yeah, apathy and ignorance. It's a combination of the both. So do they care? Number two. Number one, do they even know that they need to care? Which I think is the most important thing. Is it more ignorance or apathy?
Yeah, I think it's apathy. Most people just do the easy thing. That's just how most people operate. And like we've seen that since the American Revolution, that like, we've just had this creeping centralization in America, centralization of power across institutions, mainly, because of the monetary supply. But like decentralization was at the ethos of the American Revolution. We were going to be a decentralized group of states all working together. And we have just lost that fully over time, So I'm not actually as worried about, I think we're minting hardcore maximalist every day because everybody wants that 6.15. Everybody wants eternal riches and big titty bitches, But I'm worried about our children and I'm worried about our grandchildren. I'm worried about 300 years from now,
7th generation thinking.
Exactly.
That's one thing I'd like to bring up. It's a concept that's not well known. Actually had somebody reach out to me because Travis Kling and I had touched on it. The episode I dropped last Friday, and somebody who I talked to about Bitcoin reached out to me. It's like, I really like that thought, like 7th generation thinking. It's not
like 500 years though.
No, it's 210. Right. A generation's like 30 years.
Is that it's only 30 years?
I'm pretty sure. Right?
Yeah. I was thinking like lifetime.
I
was thinking lifetimes.
No, yeah.
Yeah, because
So
if you think about it, you're only really productive in the middle of your life. Like it's not like when you're a baby, you come right out and start.
Yeah, I was thinking like 70 years old times 7.
No, yeah, it's like 30
490 years.
30 times 7, like half that.
Okay.
Which is like 300 years. That's like
that seems like a reasonable expectation.
Well, like plant a tree. That at least thinking 60 years into the future. But no, not even like, I'm not going to tell people actionable advice to think 7 generations ahead. Just the concept of thinking 7 generations ahead of you and your actions right now affecting those people is, again, it goes hand in hand with low time preference and thinking about ways in which we can affect the world, not only while we're on it, but when we're past and shit like that.
Totally. Yeah. I've always had low time preference thinking. Like my father was one of these guys who was very low time preference and basically taught me about compounding super early on. And like I started investing super early, at like 16, 17 and learning how the markets worked and everything. And I was like the annoying asshole to all my friends being like, we can all be fucking rich, man. Don't you understand? Like all you have to do is like, don't go drinking this weekend, right? Like just, put like $100 a week away, like basically stacking sats. But it's a much tougher pitch when you're like, put it in these complex financial instruments that nobody fucking understands.
All right, you're going to go to Vanguard.com. All right, you're going to set up an account, go through all the KYC AML.
There was this great man. His name was Jack Vogel, and he basically made the fees super low. It's you have to know too much, right? And it's a rigged game for smart people. One of the things I love the most about Bitcoin is that, when Bitcoin overtakes the world, anybody's abuela across Latin America can, they can take their digital hard-earned savings and put it under their digital mattress, aka their cold card or whatever it is, and nobody can fuck with them. They become unfuckwithable.
And numbers should go up.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is why we were bullish with Betty. What was that, about a year?
Bullish with Betty. I forgot about Betty.
Remember, Betty was running a barbecue joint in Kenya, I believe, or Nairobi. It's Kenya.
Nairobi is
in Kenya. Nairobi, Kenya. She was running a barbecue joint down there. But yeah, no, it is empowering. And
she was
when do
teaching
people
classes.
So going back to the point of ignorance versus apathy,
right.
I think it's hard to be apathetic once you don't have the ignorance anymore, right? Once it's like, oh, how could you be apathetic?
Yeah, that's why
this is actually better.
I wouldn't slam people with apathy because apathy is a choice, right? You're choosing to be apathetic. I think most people just are born into the dogma. They don't know what's around them. They don't know how the world works. I mean, one of the things we all feel, right? Did you feel as embarrassed as I felt, that you had never, even for a second, considered how money works?
Yeah, that was a pretty scary realization.
It's super embarrassing, and you feel like, what a dumbass I am. I've been making all these calculations and wasting my time and my fucking life for something that I don't even know how it works. I don't even understand it. just a bunch of men somewhere else, like, fucking decide it for me. Like, what a pussy bitch am I, you know?
Yeah, no, and it's crazy, and it makes you think you're crazy, and that you're like, the bad ad hominem attack of a conspiracy theorist. Like, but that's how they like tried to paint like End the Fed, and Ron Paul's whole like campaign to end the Fed was like, oh, you're some conspiracy theorist. But the fact that nobody knows what money is or how it works, like you grow up, you go through the schooling system, you pay all that goddamn money.
Yeah.
I paid all that goddamn money for an economics degree, and like the money creation part was one class. Money in banking was like one class, one prerequisite, like one 10-week sprint. Like that was it. It wasn't expounded upon. A little introductory, nothing too crazy, and everything else was theory.
Right.
But nobody knows what money is, yet it drives everything. Again, money is the root of all evil. Fuck money, or excuse me, fuck money. Fuck bitches, get money. Like, and people, and again, like I've said this plenty of times, especially in the last 3 months, but we've been warned throughout history, like, don't fuck up the money. And people don't even know what money is, let alone that they should not let it get fucked up.
You know, that's something that we haven't fucking memed yet that needs to be memed. Like, how do you meme don't fuck up the money in a way that, like, compounds across generations, where this just becomes a part of culture? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we go into church on Sundays, and basically the sermon is just every Sunday, don't fuck up the money.
Don't forget to fuck up the money, freaks. Don't forget to not fuck up the money.
Don't forget to fuck up the money. I mean, if you want to talk apathy, like, you can see it in other chains, right? In the communities of other chains already. Things like Ethereum, where they, you know, there's no priority placed on actually like keeping the system distributed and
Right.
censorship resistant. So you can use that as like kind of a blueprint of what not to do.
Well, that's another thing. Like, what are these chains performance tuning for, right? Like, is Ethereum performance tuning for censorship resistance or functionality? Do they even know, like, can you have one without the other? Like, that's what I think everybody outside of Bitcoin's big mental block is. Like, this stuff takes course direction. You need one thing to happen before you can have
Right.
another thing. Like, you need it to be sufficiently decentralized and robust before you can even think to build the DeFi land that you want or some shit like that.
Oh, DeFi, man.
I think the problem is we don't know like how decentralized is enough,
Right.
and we won't know until it's potentially
Well, you
too
have
late,
tests, right? Didn't we have? Would you argue we did not have a test 2 years ago?
No, we absolutely had a test. I mean, it's better to overshoot it and be conservative,
Obviously,
right?
yes.
But the problem is you have apathy, and then we have the true test, and we're not ready for it, right? And that could set you back.
This goes
years,
back to my
decades.
point. Like, once you overcome the ignorance of not knowing what it is, and you understand, most people have an aha moment. At least maybe we're biased and we're living in our own bubble. But I think once you understand like the fundamentals of Bitcoin, you're like, oh, this is fundamentally a better, fairer system. Like, you want it to happen. So once you overcome that ignorance, it's hard to be apathetic, right? And so like that's what I'm trying to get to. Like, I think it may be an education problem.
There's people
more
I've
than an
met.
apathy problem.
There's people I met that like they missed the whole Bitcoin Cash SegWit 2x thing. Like, they were here, they owned Bitcoin, and they had no idea what was going on. They just had absolutely no. There's a large group. We live in our own little like Twitter, Reddit, Telegram bubble. There's a lot of Bitcoiners that could give two shits. All they know is they open Trezor on the web wallet, and they have their Bitcoin there, and they use it for whatever they use it for.
That's number go up. They just want number go up, you know.
Yeah, or whatever they're using it for.
So,
you know?
do you think our little bubble, the Twitter sphere, the Bitcoin autist, if you will, that we all are, and just decide to focus on this 24/7, 365, does it matter in the long run? Like, are we just noise? Do you think it's helpful?
That's a good question. Obviously, I buy into the idea that we're all, white blood cells. Like, I think that we're a protective mechanism for Bitcoin, and you need to have an intolerant minority to tell people to fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, if everybody doesn't care, then what's the point of the system? Like, we all have to be high conviction because of where we're coming from. Like, we grew up in a system where everybody didn't care. If we just went right back to not fucking caring, like, why are we even jettisoning the current system? Why don't we just let some assholes over at the Fed, like, tell us what to do, you know?
No, I agree. And luckily, up to this point, Bitcoiners have been able to stand up to the test and tell people to fuck off. And that was the point of today's bent. Like in the future, when more people inevitably come into Bitcoin, will that intolerant minority be enough? Like, do you think Bitcoin's intolerant minority, the core group of Bitcoiners probably in our circles and some very close to ours, is that enough to ensure Bitcoin's assurances into the future?
We're doing pretty good, actually. You know, I'm gonna like cheerlead a little bit. Like, I have a buddy who is a total noob, and he's not a very bright guy, right? And I got him into Bitcoin recently, and I was like, listen, dude, just buy some Bitcoin, and if it's lower than what you bought it for in 2022, I will buy it off of you for what you paid. This is like a no risk investment. No risk. And he knows that I have money, you know, and so he was cool with it. This guy is totally the kind of guy who would just leave his shit on Coinbase, and you know, I couldn't get him to not buy on Coinbase. He was insistent on buying.
Why?
Well, he had downloaded the app back in, you know, during the bull run, and he still had it, and he was like, "That's the app I know." That's, you know, so that's one of the Coinbase has a network effect.
That's Lindy. That's some Lindy right there.
We don't like to admit it, but they have a network effect, and they're fucking it up. I mean, it's like AOL. You
It's
know,
like they're trying
Yeah.
as hard
They
as
can't
possible
get out of
to
their
fuck
own
it up.
way.
it really seems like they're trying to kill their business. Like, does it not long term? Like short term, they're doing a killer, I guess. But long
It's either
term,
that or they are such a caricature of the like mental lapses that exist in Silicon Valley and San Francisco in particular, in those tech circles, that they literally don't even know that they're like a laughing stock.
Oh yeah, yeah.
In my opinion,
Brian Armstrong took the giving.
like
pledge.
Brian Armstrong in particular,
Completely out of touch.
completely out of touch.
Has no idea, but yeah.
He took the giving pledge, and his money is like basically all paper. You know what I mean? Like, what are you giving? You know?
I mean, he still should be commended for that.
Sure, but
Right. Whenever
is he
someone
going to be
gives
there when he
half
goes
away their money,
when he goes to give
half
it?
their money away, like I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it either.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
actually
I'll
a good
give him credit
segue
for
into
that.
something I wanted to bring up to you. I saw on your Twitter people who are hating on billionaires. Bernie doesn't think billionaires should exist.
Right.
I heard you coming at people, or saw you coming at people on Twitter.
Well, here's the thing. Like, that's a variable, right? You're saying $1 billion is the number that we want nobody to be hoarding, right? And obviously it gets very complex because Jeff Bezos doesn't have like just billions sitting in a Scrooge McDuck style vault. It's all
He should though.
right. It's all wrapped up in Amazon, which is a product we all use on the daily, and like I would argue has greatly benefited everybody's life. Now, because of seigniorage and the Cantillon effect, there are a lot of billionaires, like, you know, the assholes over here in Manhattan who live in some fancy McMansions. Like, they probably don't deserve their wealth. And so when Bernie's talking about billionaires shouldn't exist, I think he's gearing it towards those type of people who are parasites on the system. And obviously, yes, we probably have more parasites than at any time in human history.
Well, that's actually an interesting fact that was brought to my attention a couple months ago. I can't pull it right in front of me, but the amount of billionaires from 2007 to 2019 more than doubled. I believe it was like 1,100 existed in 2008, 2009, and there was like 2,500 this time last year or something.
We're now
like
at
that.
a super unsustainable place where it's easier to make $100 million into $200 million than it is to make $100K into $200K.
Well, and
you
it's and what most people don't know, and they should know. And again, this is like goes back to the conversation of ignorance over apathy. I think this is a subject people are very ignorant on. Is the way that the system is constructed is such that those people at that wealth level just literally have to put their paper wealth into some fund that is, again, paper wealth just moved to another part of the balance sheet that invest in stock markets and the financial markets, and Fed policy makes it such that those are the safest, lowest risk investments for big money managers, and those people just make money on paper, and that's how you get the amount of billionaires doubling in the course of 10 years throughout the biggest monetary expansion the world has ever seen in response to one of the biggest crises the world has ever seen on a financial level.
100%. Charlie Munger called it an unfortunate side effect at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting. Like, it's just an unfortunate side effect that we've made us all 2 times richer. Shut the fuck up.
Right? But people, when do people realize, like, I mean, but they're, like, Occupy Wall Street existed. There was obviously some anger after that. By the way, I must say I've been fasting today, and this cask whiskey is hitting me pretty hard. I'm a little buzzed already.
Oh, yeah, when you fast and then do whiskey.
It's quite delicious.
We're half an hour in, and Uncle Marty's a little buzzed already. But like how many times could people get their face pissed on, and people like the academics and powers that be tell them it's raining before they get up and start buying more Bitcoin.
Well, hey man, Paul Krugman says debt is money we owe to ourselves.
That was such a weird tweet.
All caps, repeated 4 or 5 times.
Did he just screw up? Like, what was going on there? That was
Well, he opened himself to like some very intellectual criticism too. It's like, all right, if you're going to say that, who is we? When you say we, in his mind, that's every generation. Like literally every human is a we, a collective, but that's not true. Like you have demographics you don't have demographics for a reason. You have demographics because of nature, but demographics exist, and like the collective we does not benefit everybody at any given point in time. Like,
yeah. It's basically also his version of him doing the black girl hand clapping tweet. He's just like repeating it over and over
I
again.
hate the hand clapping emoji on Twitter. It really bothers me.
I've only done it
People do
once,
the
and
clap
I was
thing.
I've only done it once, and I was very very disappointed in myself for posting a tweet. I forget what it was about.
It's all about context. So, if it's like you need to stack more sats with hand claps, I'm with that.
As long as it's on brand. I mean, this is all like our current financial system is like very new, right? Like in the scheme of things, it's like less than a human lifetime. So I think you just need time, right?
Yeah.
Like it can't continue this way forever. It's unsustainable.
Well, I completely agree. And that's the crazy thing is, what is it about humans and our inability to put things in context? Like we're just born into this. I'm like, oh, this is the way the world works. This is the way the world works. I feel like, especially in today's day and age, obviously with high time preference, conspicuous consumption driven society where you're looking at your phone, you're refreshing Twitter every 5 seconds, like the inability for our generation and the generations around us to take like a 100-foot view and put ourselves in historical context is, I think, a big flaw and something that's pervasive.
I think it's adaptability. Like adaptability is the human gift and curse. It's a double-edged sword because we can adapt to any environment very quickly, which means if we're sitting on a couch eating potato chips and air conditioning, like we adapt to that. But if we're on the Sahara, living under some elephant bones, fighting off a hyena for our next meal, we adapt to that too. And we just tend to think that whatever's going on around us is going to continue going on into the future. Like, this is why people don't understand Bitcoin, is because in order to understand Bitcoin, you have to understand evolution, because Bitcoin is an evolutionary system, right? It emerges bottom up. Like, it was not architected top down by some fancy board of assholes like they do over at Ethereum,
Ooh.
Well said.
Well,
Or Libra would be a really good example.
Right, Libra's a
too.
good one, or the Fed.
no,
Yeah.
Ethereum's a good example too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's actually been crazy to watch like the attempted whitewashing of Ethereum's history, and
Oh my God.
fuck it, let's turn it into shift
It
to
always
Ethereum.
turns this way.
Are you bullish on Ethereum's prospects of successfully transitioning to ETH 2.0?
Well, we were talking about apathy earlier, and I think that Ethereum has apathy built right in, right? When you keep kicking the can down the road, your entire user base and your developer base is just going to become apathetic. Like, when are we going to fix that? I don't know, man. We'll fix it at ETH 2.0. And then when are we going to fix it? We'll fix it at ETH 3.0, man.
Well, I saw something last week. It wasn't Algorand. What was it? When they transitioned to ETH 2.0, some huge apps, Aragon. It was Aragon. Aragon's contracts had become like unworkable. So like one of the biggest apps on Ethereum. And this, again, I'm not an expert on Ethereum.
Does Aragon, like, they make purpose-built contracts that other projects can use, right? They're like
I'm not positive.
standard
I know
puzzle
that
places.
they have smart contracts running in Solidity right now that work, but when it transitions to ETH 2.0, they are not going to work backwards compatibly. And it's something like that's something that's just glossed over. At least from my observations, it seems that it has been.
What I kind of thought was interesting was someone, forget who, was speculating that there would be like rival VC teams, like VC-backed teams, that'll come up with like competing ETH 2.0 chains with like a small pre-mine.
Of course, that's going to happen.
Well, wasn't Vitalik out trying to...
Yeah, Vitalik will be leading one.
He was trying to justify developer funds last
Yeah.
week, wasn't he?
Well, that's a constant reoccurring, but he did it again.
Yeah.
If Vitalik just had another $100 million, right? You guys, he could figure out all the issues. Like,
We're just 100 mil away. If we had enough 6.15 Bitcoin hodlers to donate to the Vidalix Fund, ETH would be here. We'd have the Turing complete world computer that we were promised.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, look at all the money we spend on cancer, and we all know we've solved cancer, you know?
Damn, dude. So what do you do outside of Bitcoin?
So I think a lot of people on Twitter know that I'm a filmmaker, and that's my training. Is like I went to film school. And when you go to film school, it's like forced entrepreneurship because you come out and like nobody gives a shit. Nobody wants to give you a job, you know?
Right.
So you just have to start a company and start doing your thing. So from that, I jumped into like doing commercials, doing music videos. Like I've definitely done a bunch of stuff people have heard of. I have like over 1.5 billion views online at this point.
Oh shit, I had no idea.
Yeah, but I don't like to. It's like I often don't like to brag about it too, because like some girl who does makeup tutorials who's like 13 and lives in her parents' bedroom in Tokyo has like 7 billion views.
Hey, we're finding good allies in the YouTube makeup tutorial realm. So
Michelle
Fan. That's right.
she's woke, dude.
She definitely read the Bitcoin Standard.
Oh yeah. This just goes into the point too about how anybody could say they like Bitcoin and they all just become our new best friend. We're just
Well, that's what's important about. We were talking about it earlier. Is like that swarm of Bitcoiners online.
that love and that appreciation.
Yeah.
Is
You
it
get positive feedback?
But
The
is it too
individuals-
much sometimes?
No,
The
fuck
individuals
no.
don't matter as much as the swarm in its entirety.
That's a very good
Like
point.
the individual, like we could come and go.
That's,
Right.
That's one of this. That's one of this podcast's favorite lines. Is you're only as strong as your weakest link. Like no, like the chain is one big entity. Like each link is a part
And like
of it.
especially on like the education front, I think, and like minting new, like you were saying, like minting new like hardcore Bitcoiners.
Do you guys ever worry about like leading people down the wrong path though? Like what if we're wrong? And what if we?
I mean, I think the responsible way to do it is like to provide caveats around the,
Also,
while you're doing it.
Yeah, it's
which I
like-
think we do. To
This
a
is not
degree.
investment advice.
But at least we'll be wrong at the same time.
right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what I was gonna
it's
say.
not like we're trying
have
to
the-
pull the hood over
yeah.
someone.
We have the courage of our conviction. You know?
Yes. No. And this is antagonistic questioning, and I agree. Like, I think this stuff again. Like I've been saying, like once you know it, it's like how could you be apathetic towards this at all? Like it is
Right.
better. It's just what is the best way? Oh, that's me. I'm sorry, that was my phone. Like, what is the best way to have people like reach that aha moment and
Well,
get them into the swarm, if you will?
For me, it's more about tightening the inner circle, which is why when I saw you do stacking sats, I was like, this is the beacon. This is what I've been waiting for. Like
Stacking sats.
I was like, stacking sats is the world's greatest meme. Like I'm in love with this meme. Why haven't I been stacking sats?
We have been stacking sats this whole time. We just didn't like realize what to call it.
We
Right.
don't have the vernacular yet.
Well, and also I was doing the thing where I'd make a big buy at the quote unquote bottom.
Oh, so you weren't dollar cost averaging.
No. So I, like at the most recent bear, I bought like $300,000 worth at 6,600.
This
Yeah,
is,
it's
like,
terrible
horrible,
OPSEC.
dude.
No,
big
no.
dickin', big
What?
dickin'.
And yeah, we all know you did because you were posting screenshots the whole fucking time.
How does it feel?
You shouldn't. You're like you're preaching like bad habits to people.
Here's
in
what
that
I'm doing. I'm
respect.
doing community service for noobs because they get to see that, you remember during the fucking 17 run up, all these like little bitches like Crypto Medici would be out there telling people like what to do, or Crypto Randy or whatever the fuck,
Yeah.
pick your favorite shitcoin influencer. And most of these guys are poor losers who live in their mom's basement, like Michael Nye, like Crypto Nye. That guy, you remember this.
Just
And-
name dropping. I love it.
I don't think any of them listen to this podcast.
yeah, fuck them anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Matt and Marty aren't saying this shit. I'm saying it about you. You're a bunch of little bitches and you know
Michael Nye is Ripple Tattoo, right?
it. Does he?
No, that's I think you're thinking of BitLord.
Oh, BitLord, right?
Bitlord. That's pathetic.
Um,
Bitlord waxes his
well-
eyebrows also.
Well, this is a good. And I'm not trying to say one thing or another about any of these individuals, but it is crazy. It like highlights the craziness and insanity of the mania when we get into the mania phase of these run-ups, because basically all the people that you're referencing in my mind, just via observation, they've been on my Bitcoin list, and they popped on my Bitcoin list as they came into more and more in conversation and observationally looking. It's just
Yeah.
posted charts, had an anon with crypto in the name. And that was basically you post bullish charts at the right time during the bull market when all the retail's rushing in. You can get followers very easily.
I'm a hypocrite too because you
People
post
like
something.
the charts.
You post something that tickles my various confirmation bias spots, and I'm gonna fucking smash the like button on
Yeah,
that thing.
retweet.
Right.
I just want to go back real quick because I think it's important to talk about this. I think the stay humble part of Stack Sats is really important because otherwise, when you do get to a bear market, people get overextended, right?
Exactly.
And so, like, yeah, for maybe absolute numbers, what you post.
Well, this
look
is
big,
exactly what
but
I was
for-
trying to tease out by pointing this out. Like,
Yeah.
that's not the way to go about it.
I knew Matt was gonna chastise me when I came in here. You know.
But just because like like people should be humble, like they shouldn't overextend themselves. And I
fully
understand
agree.
you're not,
Yeah.
but when you post those big numbers, like you make everyone feel like they should overextend themselves. Like I sometimes I'll look at a tweet of yours and I will just open up Cash App and I will buy more
Oh,
because
you know what? We should stack it right now, like during the pod. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna stack right now.
I'm gonna stack right
But sometimes
now.
I'll look at it and I'll be like, "Damn, dude, are you worried about the GPTC premium closing when the ETF gets launched?"
Well, Marty's asking me that because I just bought $500,000 worth of GBTC and then I posted it online. I know Matt's like shaking his head at me. He's like, "Stop fucking saying that shit, dude." Listen, I'm like the one exception, man. That's how it is, you know. I'm gonna try and buy 7,700. Let's see if Cash App will let me do that. Probably not.
okay, I stacked.
Big dick.
They're saying I can only buy 210
Do you max it out a lot?
every time. I just hit the max buy every time.
Ridiculous. You should like.
What is your risk like? If you don't mind me asking, what is your risk profile like? What does your portfolio look like?
Well, so I have all of my personal. I just stacked 2.5 million sats. Sorry, I shouldn't say. Every time I do that shit, Matt is like shaking his head at me.
It's
Matt's
so
red right now.
bittersweet
Matt's
because,
red
like,
right now.
You've promoted stacking sats like tremendously, but it's bad habits.
I lost the roots. Stay humble. I lost the foundation.
I mean, because the other issue is like then people think like, oh, if they're a NIM, then they're safe or whatever. But like their KYC exchange provider, like Cash App in this instance, can connect who it is. So if
Totally.
you use their data, you can figure out who the Twitter is, and then if someone's like, it could out them. They could be thinking everything's like. I know you don't think everything is anonymous on Twitter or whatever, but they could be saying things they shouldn't be saying.
Things are
And
not
fuck them
anonymous
up.
on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like you guys
Obviously.
you guys need to understand that everything that I'm putting on Twitter, I feel is ultimately going to be reconnected back to my real name and identity, right?
Because it will be.
It will be.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
Okay, good.
I'm also willing to fight the fuckers right up front. And
Right? Like, I don't think you've said anything like incredibly.
what am I doing? I'm a
Yeah,
guy who's
exactly.
buying some shit that's legal through an American company.
That's where like I am like right there with you in this line of thinking where a lot of people are ultra paranoid, like be worried about what you say on social media, especially if it's like anti-state. It's like just with that admission alone, like be worried about what you say on the internet because you'll be put on some list. Like
Self-censorship.
exactly self-censorship.
It is,
like
100%. That's
like,
why I don't
but
self-censor
do
on
not
Twitter.
self-censor.
Right.
It's
Like,
different with Bitcoin because, you know, okay,
No,
regardless of what he posts, the American government knows he's a Bitcoiner. He buys GBTC, does all this shit. Like, they obviously know you're a Bitcoiner already.
100%.
So that doesn't out you as a Bitcoiner to them, but it does out you as a Bitcoiner to any other government in the world who is, like, they know you were buying this amount of Bitcoin at this point, and then if it goes up 10x or whatever,
it
and you're trying
shouldn't
to,
matter though. Like it shouldn't matter if they know.
you know, I'm just saying, like, if
Well,
people
you
want
know, I
to
think
travel
what-
and shit, like,
I
it's
think
going
what
to be
Matt
an
is
issue.
saying is actually a fair point. Like that, you know, maybe I'm setting a bad example for international Bitcoiners because we have certain protections here in the U.S. We really do, and like I'm fully prepared to take this thing to court if it needs to be that way, and I'm fully prepared.
What I
I hope
would've-
they put
what
American
I would've-
Hodl on the documents. Like,
What I would've-
U.S. government versus American Hodl.
But I want to
that'd be
flesh
so
out.
gangster.
I want to flesh out like a drunk cosmic future in which we don't have to worry about this shit. Like, what does that look like? You don't have to worry about.
Dude, it looks a lot like what Trace Mayer is doing in Wyoming. You know what I mean?
And let's explain that. What's he doing in Wyoming?
So, you know, Trace is basically a wealthy early Bitcoiner, you know, who has a, you know, extreme ideological understanding and now has vast resources. And he has not been shy about telling people that, and you know, in the early days, he was doing it for, you know, marginal increases in his hoardings, obviously, right? But now he's doing it, I think, sort of out of the kindness of his heart. And he's trying to create regulatory environments that are favorable to the type of individual that he is, and we all benefit from that.
Was that you who posted the picture of Trace with the shoes?
Yes.
That was 100% me. And
The Costco sneakers.
So no, this is a topic. I actually have this tweet up right now because it goes hand in hand with this tweet. You posted a tweet 2 days ago over the weekend of Steve Jobs was worth $400 million. At the time that there's a photo with a tweet, at the time this photo was taken, and he had zero furniture in his mansion. Why? Because none of it was good enough for Steve. He had a Porsche in the garage and a mattress on the floor. Don't accept what the world offers you. Demand more.
yeah, this is a tweet that
And I feel like these go hand in hand with what you're describing with
100%.
Trace.
Like, fucking, your sats are the most valuable thing in the goddamn universe. What are you going to do? Spend them on, like, some shitty foreign car? Fuck that. Spend them on things that really fucking matter. Whatever that is to you. You know, like, all right, I'll put you on the spot right here, right now. What are you going to spend your fucking sats on 20, 30 years from now that is really going to matter?
I think land that I will hand down to my family throughout time, 7 generations, hopefully.
Productive land is always good.
That is my goal.
But how are you going to reshape society in a way that's meaningful?
Hopefully make Bitcoin become a thing that is part of everybody's life.
My Citadel's going to be very well run. It'll be a beacon of hope to people.
Bitcoin is almost like step one, you know, in a 2 or 3 step process where we reshape fucking society. You know what I mean?
All right, let's go through this.
Oh, I mean, I always analogize to the American Revolution, but we're at the stage of the American Revolution where we're all just sort of, you know, talking,
Meeting in the
scenes.
coffee shops
Right.
and stuff like that.
Exactly. And some people are being like, but England, and we're like, fuck
Shut the
off.
fuck
right,
up.
shut this guy the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up,
We're going
Ari.
to war, motherfucker. And the reason I blow my OPSEC and, you know, I say that I have money and I'm a wealthy Bitcoiner and everything, not wealthy like Trace is. Trace is fucking a god among men. But, you know, that I have a couple $1 million in Bitcoin. The reason I say that shit is because I want to put my neck on the line. Like, I believe in the cause. You know, George Washington was like a wealthy aristocrat when he went up against the world's biggest empire. I mean, how crazy is that? And, like, we need to put it on the line and actually fuck up the establishment.
Is this a thirst for like excitement and
Meaning.
is it meaning, or is it like like are you an experienced chaser looking like a skydiver looking for that rush?
No, because I don't feel like I went looking for this. I feel like it found me, you know?
But number go up is a rush, right?
Oh, my
it's
God.
like the most addicting drug there is.
And it's the worst because number go up happens so briefly. You know, like we're all here for years and years and years.
Well, that's another good point of stacking sats and like DCAing in is because you're gonna miss like the 2 to 3 days of the hyper volatility that makes the big up days in Bitcoin.
Right. It's pretty easy to tell when that is too, and just, you know, not buy as frequently as you normally do.
Yeah.
Stack sets. I just thought it was funny. That Steve Jobs tweet, like the only thing in the room in the picture is a lamp, and like someone commented underneath, they were like, "I don't like the lamp." That was very Twitter.
I was
you
like,
know?
well, Steve liked it, man. It was his lamp, you know? Yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing about Steve Jobs because, you know, and that it's like a very obvious knock on Steve because all Steve did was demand of people.
And
you
he
know?
also wasn't publicly charitable.
Right, he was not.
Yeah,
Right? He didn't
no.
do much charity at all.
But he might have.
He did some. And
We
I
don't
think
know though if he was doing it, you know.
his wife did some for
Anonymously.
sure. Yeah, but you know, there's like that movie, and it's like I don't play the instruments. I play the orchestra. You know, what Steve did was demand the best out of the people that were around him, and the people that were around him were geniuses. But would they have done what they did without Steve? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And what I'm asking Bitcoiners is, I want you to fucking demand more for your Bitcoin if you're going to part with it. Like, I don't want you to just, you know, I don't want you to just buy a ranch or productive land and then like
Like a Toyota Camry.
and a Porsche or whatever it is. Like, you're going to be stupid rich. What the fuck are you going to do with it? Are you going to change society or what? Like, what the fuck are we doing here, you know?
No, it feels like we have the ability to change it too. Like Bitcoin is that is it a conduit through which we could change society, or is it a conduit, or is it it's a tool? It's a tool.
It's
right?
a tool, yeah.
Non-violent tool.
Right.
But it like how short is the window of opportunity in your mind? Do you think we have a needle to thread that we need to sort of get this as robust and decentralized as possible before a certain point? Or
100%. Step one is make Bitcoin happen.
Are we doing a good job so far in your mind?
I think so.
Could we do better?
I think we're doing a really good job. You know, the blind spots that we have are getting worked out in a decentralized fashion.
What are the blind spots in your mind?
That's a really hard question. I think, I think this is just, Matt's going to yell at me. I think privacy focus is a blind spot. Like in the fact of like, yes, the money should be fungible and we should be able to make private transactions. But like you as a Bitcoiner, Matt's going to yell at me. You need to stand up and say, I fucking Bitcoin because I'm a free man. I don't need to fucking, I don't live in your Keynesian dogmatism. You know what I mean?
I'm right there with you.
High five Marty right there.
I'm right there
But
with
is that's like
that's one thing that turns me off, but like there is like the crazy and not crazy. Like again, I'm drunk. This whiskey is hitting you, boy.
Oh, it's so good. I'm on
pretty
my third
strong
one
right now. But the crazy future in which everybody needs like hyper privacy, you need to paint your face a certain way, so that like I don't want that.
But
I would like a world in which we're all just like, hey, we're all going to be free individuals.
That's
let's,
like,
let's,
but I'm
let's
not-
agree. Let's agree to at least have this
Yeah.
agreement, and then we can act like normal people. We don't need to like paint our faces and
I'm not
worry about
trying to
transacting
be-
in the world.
I'm not trying to be a dick when I say this, but like I feel like that comes from like a privileged position to say something like that.
100% it does. No,
because
no,
like,
Matt's
does.
right.
It
Matt's
definitely
right.
does.
I'm glad
It
you said
definitely
that.
in a
shit.
lot of places in the world,
And
like you will get fucking killed over
I agree.
it.
I agree.
And
I agree.
so it needs to be.
But that
we
should-
can't be angry at chain analysis companies if they can do it. We should build the tools that are necessary to make sure that they can't fucking track the transactions in the first place.
I agree.
100%. I agree too.
And all right, to clarify, that is an ideal. Like that is the ideal I would like to strive for, where we can all just be like, I don't care. And again,
Absolutely, I
maybe-
don't disagree.
Exactly.
But
Maybe
listen-
it's an ideal that's unattainable, and like you can never reach an ideal. So it's all.
I just think
Pipe dream.
humans, like, you should just build the system so you don't have to trust humans to, act in good intentions. Like, that's, like, the reason all of our systems are broken are because there's, like, this overlying assumption that all humans are going to act in, like, good ways to people. And we should just assume that won't be the case and operate
right,
accordingly.
right.
And well, that's the crazy thing about today's day and age too. We're finding out that people that pull the levers are not as good as we'd like them to be, or we expect them to be.
That's the scary thing about our generation is the calls for socialism, which is calls for altruism, which is, why don't we just trust the government and they'll be, basically our, daddy and mommy, and they'll like give us money every month, and we'll fucking, there's probably a lot of people around here in Williamsburg who like that idea, right? Fuck that shit. Like, be a fucking grown up. Take responsibility for yourself. Like,
Well, that's when I had Mauricio on from Ledin.io, and he's a Venezuelan who ran a mining operation down there. And he said, though, like, once you get a little bit of that free government money, that you live off the dole for a little bit, it's so hard to get off of. And here in America in particular, the welfare state's only getting bigger. Like, I don't see it contracting, at least anytime soon. It hasn't contracted recently. It's
this
only
is the
getting
thing
worse.
that scares me is like we're going to have newfound wealth at a time when people are inheriting the ash pile. That's a very scary proposition.
But that's always when like major wealth gets made anyway.
It is true.
I just want to like give our generation like a little bit more of a benefit of the doubt, because if you look at Bitcoin, the majority of people here are our generation, are younger people. They're not older people.
But there's also so few of us, right?
But it is, I think it is a little like the socialist millennial is like a little bit of a meme. Like I feel like it doesn't
over-meme?
give. I think most of our generation is fed up and they know that they're getting served a shitty fucking platter, but they're they haven't invested enough time to know what the solution is to that. They just know they're getting fucked, right? And some of us
100%.
have come out and actually tried to figure out what was going on, right? And then others haven't. They just jump onto whatever the latest thing is.
Well, you know, yeah, 100%. I agree. I agree with Matt entirely, and I think that me and Marty are speaking from privileged backgrounds. Like, you know, I've heard you on the podcast be like, I played lacrosse, and it sounds like you went to maybe like a prep school or a private school.
I went to
Right.
an all boys Jesuit private school.
And I'm from a similar background as you, so like, yes, we 100% speak from a privileged position, but maybe that's sort of our role. Is like we need to step out there and be out. It needs everything.
Well, that like, I mean, yes, I've definitely had opportunities to get an education that a lot of people don't have opportunities to. But I've had my ups and downs in my life as well. Like, it's not like
Oh, right, me too.
it's not like shit has been
Yeah.
flawless throughout time, and that's like
No, I'm
that's-
not trying to paint you that way.
No, and I don't think you were trying. Like the thing, and I'm trying to get to the bent that I wrote last Friday, which was like, why don't we just? I'm sorry, there was mic disruption there, but we got past it. But the bent I wrote on last Friday was like, why don't we walk away from the politicians? Because that's the thing that pisses me off. Because again, like I felt like the hesitation, like talking about like, yeah, we're privileged and talking like this, but like again, the politics in America in particular have been driven to such a point where it's you against the other. And that's the framing of all the political conversations in America. It's creating another and then pitting you against the other.
Well, and you know, now that we're all in Bitcoin, right? Like, don't you kind of have these conversations in Ubers or wherever you have them about Trump or whatever it is, and you're just like, oh man, I just wish you knew about Bitcoin. I wish you knew how the monetary system worked, because then you would see like who's behind the fucking, you know, who's the Wizard of Oz? Like, who's pulling the lever?
Well, it's not even the Wizard of Oz. You find the root of the problem again. And like,
Right.
am I wrong? Like, do you think the root of the problem is money and the money creation?
100%. We all
Bitcoin
interact.
fixes this.
Bitcoin does fix it. Like, do you think that, man? Like, what do you think is the root of the problem? Like, if you had to diagnose the root of the problem,
Yeah, I mean, I think our system has broken incentives. I think the incentives are all out of fucking whack, and our politicians are bought and paid for, and like the top is able to just keep sucking up all the wealth. I think when I talk to like most of my peers that are like not in Bitcoin, they're like exasperated, and they don't know what to do. They're just like stuck in their cycle. But my point is not even. This world is like so fucking big. There's people from like all different backgrounds that are using Bitcoin. It's pretty crazy when you start to think like I have to actively make sure not to be like, from my point of view, American centric, because we're such a little portion of the world, right? But there's 7 billion people that aren't Americans.
it's more than that, right?
No, it's like 7.2 or something, right?
Yeah.
Let me interject here, though. Isn't it a great idea to give them, I don't want to say American ideals, but a tool.
Just drop some patriotism on them.
Well, here's the thing.
That's worked out well.
The reason
for the last
the
20
reason I fucking call myself American Hodl is because, first of all, American Gothic is a dope ass painting, and I wanted to seem austere when my real personality is anything but that, as you can tell. But
I love the profile photo. Yeah.
but I fucking believe that America is an idea that's worth fighting for.
Well, I'm very happy with how you phrase that, because that's the important thing. America is an idea, an ideal, an idea that you strive for. And I would argue, and that's been the reason I started the podcast, the reason I'm into Bitcoin is because I had somebody, and I've told this story on the podcast many times, but this was a defining moment in my life where I had somebody who grew up in the USSR basically shake my shoulders and be like, Marty, the U.S. is slowly but surely turning into what I ran away from. And if you pay attention, if you look at the Patriot Act, all of the privacy and liberty encroaching laws and mandates that have been passed. That's the other thing. Like, nobody talks about executive orders and how they've been bastardized over the last 6 years in particular. Like, that's where I come from, is like, yo, America, yes, we live in this country, we pay taxes, we are Americans, but That is not what America is. America is an idea of pure freedom, just like pure individual sovereignty. Like you can do whatever the fuck you want to do as long as you're not harming anybody else.
America was humanity's city upon a hill, right? Like we've always had a city upon a hill, some beacon to look up to. And it's not anymore. Bitcoin is, right? Like that's humanity's beacon. Like Bitcoin is the city upon a hill. Like that's where the most freedom.
Why do you think it's the city upon the hill?
Well, it's because it's the most freedom, the most liberty, the most humanitarian aspects. Like the idea of the American Constitution was not to give us rights; it was to defend our rights, like our inalienable rights that we were born with. You know,
they're inalienable if you're going to get it down to like the etymology beat. Like it cannot be disconnected from you.
Exactly.
Like, it is part of you.
Same with Bitcoin, like the ability to save your time and your energy. That is a fucking fundamental human right, you know? And that's why Bitcoin is the world's new city upon a hill.
Do you think it's a foregone conclusion?
I don't want to say that, but yeah, that's how I feel. That's how I walk around.
It seems irresponsible to say that.
It totally is. My whole thing is irresponsibility.
I mean, I say it more in a bear market, but I've said that I think Bitcoin will pump forever, which I think is a pretty irresponsible thing to say.
That's the smartest shit you've ever said in your life.
But I think it will, right? Like that's the thesis.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing is like we might not see, 3% GDP or whatever, like in a hyper Bitcoinized world. We might see 10%, 20%. Who knows what we're fucking capable of if we have a money that benefits us.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, if we do grow into a world that is run on a Bitcoin standard, and that's another point I want to drive home to people is like the KPIs that we strive for, are they advantageous in this economy in particular? Like in the current system, in the incumbent system, like is GDP, is growth for growth cost a good KPI to strive for? In a Bitcoin standard, what would that KPI be?
What we have now is a measurement industrial complex. We have measurements that, for certain, phenomena that we feel is going to be beneficial to us and to the status quo. And then we have a system built around those measurements. It's like, okay, let's talk about your thing with the Mazzari crypto rating guys and how you fucking, you like went after them as they deserve to be gone after because they're replicating a part of a broken system that has no fucking place in Bitcoin. Like, if we're going to be free market, let the fucking free market decide. Don't come out and say, this thing's not a security. Don't worry about it, guys. Like, fuck you, 2-bit idiot. Marty and Matt are not going to say that shit. I'll say that shit. You're a bitch. Fuck yourself. He posted one of my tweets the other day. He didn't even do any due diligence on it. He thought I was talking about some recent news story about some guy, jettisoning all his Bitcoin. And I posted the old Mike Hearn article. If you can't even do basic due diligence on a tweet, why the fuck should anybody trust you with their shit?
I was happy you posted Mike Hearn's. That was I think a
failed
very
Bitcoin
lost piece of history that needs to be talked about more.
Not a lot of new Bitcoiners knew that one.
Yeah,
that was to us. It was like
I have a thread
that's
on
why
that.
that's why I felt compelled to write that issue today. It was like people don't understand like SegWit 2x, and Mike Hearn's piece was probably the impetus for that whole conversation. SegWit 2x.
I bought 2 Bitcoin for $800 on Circle. Sorry. I only have 6.15. I bought 2 Bitcoin.
615 million sats.
I only have 615 million sats. So anyway, I bought 2 Bitcoin on Circle. You guys are and in the notes section, it had a little section where you could write shit, and I wrote, "Fuck you, Mike Hearn." And that's how I remember when the hernia happened.
That was so annoying when that happened.
January 2015 or 2016?
It's 2016.
January 2016.
Because we were all supposed to act like he mattered, and he didn't fucking matter.
Well, let's talk about what Mike Hearn wanted to do. He wanted to enlist a blacklist of Bitcoin addresses that would be identifiable to...
among other things.
He was a spook.
He was
I think
definitely
he was
a
a
spook.
spook.
He was a spook.
He's
He had to have
definitely
been.
a spook.
And Gavin was...
He was ex-Google.
Gavin got turned at some point.
I don't know about Gavin. Maybe?
He went to the CIA to give them a...
Yeah, but he could just be naive.
I think
naive,
that's
he's
his. I think that's his.
dangerously
I think
naive.
that's his. Like,
No, and I'm not saying if he
I
was
think
naive,
that's
it
his-
is dangerous.
I think
but
that's his cover. Is I'm just naive.
Right.
Maybe, but Hearn was definitely. I think.
Yeah, he wanted.
Yeah, it
Hearn
seemed
was more
obvious.
So-
likely.
Yeah.
So
like-
for you freaks out there who don't know who we're talking about, in regards to Mike Hearn. Mike Hearn was a Bitcoin Core developer who in January 2016 posted a Medium article. I believe it was titled It was like
Death of Bitcoin.
No, it wasn't the death of Bitcoin. It was the conclusion of the Bitcoin experiment.
The conclusion of the Bitcoin experiment.
The conclusion of the Bitcoin experiment.
That shit is seared in my brain. As soon as you said it, I was like, yep.
Yeah, and he basically...
Like, because he was like,
he said
it's
they didn't...
over.
And he went like to New York Times and Wall Street Journal.
And they did a whole
his
fucking
explanation
media
was... His explanation was they won't push my blacklist into the core protocol, therefore it has failed. And Bitcoin ran to all-time highs immediately after that.
Okay.
20x.
A16Z is obviously like a shitcoin factory.
And
but
Coinbase is their portfolio consolidation company.
But I will always love Mark Andreessen because on Twitter, when we broke new all-time highs, he came up and was like, "Has anybody heard from Mike Hearn?" It was a fucking amazing tweet that I don't think anybody remembers.
I don't remember that.
He deleted his whole Twitter, but you remember that?
I don't.
Oh, it was the shit.
You're jogging my memory right
P.
now.
Marca, look that tweet up. I
And
remember.
Vinny was the other one. Vinny was a little bit later. I think Mike Hearn, when he did it, it was like $500, $600. So it was actually more than 20x.
It might have been lower.
Vinny was a 20x. Vinny was like 970 to like 1070. It was where
I believe Vinny
sold
was
95% of his Bitcoin.
Yeah, I believe Vinny was in the four figures. Or actually, no, Raoul Paul was the other one. It was at like 2100.
But he was a little bit later.
Yeah.
That's why Bitcoiners are so aggressive. Is because people tell us we're fucking idiots all the time.
Dude, that's all you hear.
Yeah.
And then when you're at the top, they tell you're an idiot still, and you're like, it's $20,000. How am I still an idiot? I'm a multimillionaire. Shut the fuck up.
It's on its way back to zero, though, dude.
It's like, okay, let me tell this story. My dad, I called my dad, and, my dad and me had sort of an estranged relationship, and, he was sort of like never in my life because he was a hardcore, corporate lawyer guy. And my whole life, it was just like succeed, And I call him during the 2017 bull run, like in December, when it's like $20,000, and I was like, hey, I want to let you know, like, I'm a fucking multimillionaire right now. Like, it's crazy, but it's true. And he was like, that's not real money. That's what he fucking said to me. And I was like, yes, it is. God damn it. Like, it has liquidity. Shut the fuck up, Like, why am I not good enough for you, Dad? Like, that's what's going through my head.
Well, what do you think it is? Like, why is he still dismissive?
It's a generational thing, I think, mainly,
Really?
Yeah, because think about it. They had to grow up in a generation where, like, they had to be dependent on other men. Like, it's like the cloud is someone else's computer. Well, like, the Fed is just somebody else's money, And
they did really well.
Yeah, they did. They got rewarded for it, right? To be in Peter Thiel's book, in 0 to 1, he talks about being a definite optimist versus being an indefinite optimist. Whereas, like, our grandparents' generation were definite optimists. It was like, we're going to land a fucking man on the moon. How the fuck are we going to do that? I don't know. We're going to crunch the math. We're going to do it.
We'll figure it the fuck out.
Figure it the fuck out. All right? Stop being un-American, son. Stop asking, And our parents' generation, or, if the baby boomers, may not have been your parents, but the baby boomer generation, they were indefinite optimists, which was like, how are things going to get better? I don't know, but shit seems to be working out, It's like that thing we were talking about earlier. It's like, things are good now. They're continuing to be good. It's like Raoul Paul says, like, all you got to do is buy fucking bonds and equities and go to the beach. Things are great. Why are you questioning shit?
He also wants me to wear diamonds.
I think you should don out with some diamonds.
Matt could use some diamonds. I'm looking at him right now.
It
It's
goes
like
back.
buy gold, wear diamonds.
So that's what I think. What holds me back, what makes me most apprehensive as a Bitcoiner, as a quote unquote millennial who just wants to like stand on top of a mountain and shout at the world, like, we should be fucking paying attention to this. We should be transitioning to this. Like, I'm always like, who the fuck am I to be telling people that
You
this
said
is
this
better?
shit on the other day with Travis King, who said too much shit about distributed ledger technology. Like, fuck that guy.
DLTs, bro. DLTs.
Did I preface that?
You did preface it really well, but he was like saying shit like, he was like, oh yeah, I bought XRP because I was like, clearly bank coins are a thing, and I was like, fuck off. Like, why do you have a fund? Anyway, I don't want to shit talk him too much, but he's a bitch. But here's the thing, Marty.
I like that episode. I thought it was a good episode.
I do not
No, it
endorse
was.
it.
I agree with him a lot.
Travis,
I
I
just didn't
love
like
you.
all the
I do not endorse
DLT
that.
talk.
I like DLT better than blockchain.
It's better than blockchain, I guess. Oh, fine,
And he
I'll
admitted that he was
concede.
wrong about XRP, but then also bragged about like what 11x.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, I made 50K on XRP." I was like, "All right."
But it was a good episode.
It was. I enjoyed it.
People have
I
to go
enjoyed
through their learning experience, you know. As long as you're not promoting the shit coins, it's a little bit, it's okay.
I'm an agnostic host. I'm just here.
Marty's just asking the tough questions. I'm too drunk to remember what my original point was.
I
But
don't know.
it
You
was
just like brought up DLTs.
No, we were getting into like
before that. I had a point.
my apprehension is like, what if it all doesn't work out and we're giving this information? Was that my apprehension?
We'll
drunk
figure
too,
it
man.
out.
It's fully gone.
I think we'll just figure it out. Humans are smart and greedy, and we'll figure it out.
Will we though?
Yeah. We always have in the past.
That's true.
We've always figured it out in the past. We're
Well-
pretty much killing it as a species.
Well, if you're thinking of it as an input-output system, the rate at which inputs are being put into the system it's getting crazy. Like, it's getting to a point, like, and this is,
success, though.
well, that's the big question, right?
We're
So
at pre-success.
well, that's the big question, right? Because that's former guest on this podcast, somebody who gets a lot of shit on Bitcoin Twitter, Joe Weisenthal, and I would argue that he is not a mouthpiece, but he's an advocate for the mainstream way of economics and stuff like that. And I think, like, how do we put the context of our current condition? How do we put our current condition in the I'm so drunk right now. How do we put our current condition in the context in such a way that, like, you can think of moving forward without having to take, like, historical precedents in the I'm so drunk I can't even fucking explain this. 112:30 to 113:30. That last minute, I have no idea what I was just about to say.
You gonna cut that out?
I think I'm going to.
Go back. Who
Well, the
wants to
point
start
I'm
out?
trying to make is, like, it is a big leap of faith to, like, jump into Bitcoin and be like, this is the way of the future. Like, literally, the world has never operated on a system like Bitcoin.
You know what the great thing is? Nobody knows anything about their fucking money. Nobody has any investments. Like, they're starting from scratch.
Well, and this is the point I'm trying to get to. Like, what if we're leading them down the wrong road? What if we're wrong? That is the whole point I was trying to get to. It's like, so Joe Weisenthal, like, pushing, like, the mainstream narrative, like, hey, this seems to be working. Like, what if that does work into perpetuity and we're just the curmudgeons that don't want it to work because it doesn't fit into our worldview?
Even if the current system works into perpetuity,
Holy shit. I'm probably not going to be able to cut that out. And I'm sorry, freaks.
it's okay.
Why aren't you gonna be able to cut it out?
'Cause I'm going to forget.
Yeah, I figure you're gonna forget it. That's why I always find it funny when you say on air what the time is, because we all hear it when we like listen to
I know.
the
He's like,
podcast.
I'm gonna cut that shit out, and you're like,
Never
hey, it's
does.
still in there, man.
Never does, but,
But you know
every
what?
single time he says it into, and like saying it into the recording doesn't help you remember it because it's in there somewhere.
That's part of the charm of the whole thing, you know. You know what my favorite is when Marty gets upset. When Marty works himself up into a lather and gets upset about something, that is my favorite part of TFTC. I love that shit.
When do I get upset?
You got upset on the privacy episode with Janine a little bit. Like, there are times definitely when you get upset, and I love that shit. I'm like, oh, Marty's fucking fired up. Like,
Well, I'm always fired up. I think the world, and this goes back into the point, like, where I lost myself earlier. Like, I believe that, like, the world needs directional change. Not like, I'm not going to say what every individual needs to do in their individual life to change, but I think directionally we need to fight for freedom in the digital age. Like, the digital age in particular, as so that's the big thing. We're transitioning into a new era of the way humans interact with technology, and there's a good argument to be made that we have fucked up the first iteration.
There's like a
In
turning
such
point here. There's
Yes.
like we can go in two directions.
Exactly.
And this is like
we
Trace's thing, like-
Exactly.
But I think up until this point we've gone net free. I think like if you talk like the last 20
I think we're
years
going in the
or
wrong
something-
direction.
You
dude.
think so?
I think we started off and we need to, like, correct.
How about
mistakes.
like internet access and shit?
Yeah, but think
just
about, like-
access to knowledge and like borders are relatively open.
It's
Right.
all good and well now, but, like, it feels like it could be all shut down
I agree
in a moment.
but I think like we've kind of net benefited.
Also,
you
think
know?
about the oligopolies that have formed. You know, the tech oligopolies that have formed.
Yeah, but is that new?
No.
The global scale is new,
Yeah.
Exactly. The
But-
power
And the
that can
speed.
be-
The speed is new.
but
too.
the concept of it is very old.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, the concept of control, power over a system is very old, but the ways in which it's enacted today are so foreign to us. We're still figuring out how the hell it happens, right? Like, and that's my biggest worry, is that we get to a point where we allow it to get to a point where there's no turning back, and you have like the Chinese social credit system
Yeah.
exported to the rest of the world.
It would basically Black Mirror. Like that shit is not good.
Just the key is to have enough sats that when that happens, you can just chill in your citadel.
Well,
We have total privilege here, though, as Americans. We really do. Like, let
That's
me
what
tell-
I'm saying, right?
Let me tell you, we do. Let me tell you the story. Okay, so for work, I run a big influencer, and we have an invitation to go to the United Arab Emirates.
Wait, you run an influencer,
I produce all of their content. Like, I run their.
but it's a person.
I run their channels,
Right,
you know,
okay.
Facebook, YouTube, blah, blah, blah. Like, I run all that shit. It's millions of people that subscribe to this person. And I'm the guy behind it. That's how I have money to stack sats. Like, you can make a fucking killing on YouTube. We have an invitation to go to see the Sheikh's son in the United Arab Emirates, and it pays $500,000. Okay, this is like something that's very hard to turn down. And then you look up who this person is, and you're like, oh, this person's a straight up war criminal. They tortured U.S. citizens. Like, maybe I shouldn't go. But then the lure of stacking sats in my brain is like,
$500,000.
exactly. So what I'm saying is, when we're on their soil, like, the calculation I have to do in my mind is like, when I land on their soil, I'm on their fucking soil. And they could torture and kill me at any point. And I'm
Well, wouldn't it be better if they didn't know you had Bitcoin? Do we agree?
You know what? The
Do we agree?
conspiratorial thinking from Matt has actually gotten me. Like, when we were going through this email chain, I was actually in my brain being like, I wonder if this is a ruse to get me, the
There you
Bitcoiner.
go.
You know?
And what if after we 10x, you're going to be thinking it even more.
Why
I
don't you put yourself another glass of whiskey there?
Wait, has
We're gonna
got
have
one.
we're gonna have the crew roll in after you pass out later.
6.15 hours.
People were like, you guys got to go 6.15 hours. Like, there's no way, dude. We
We're,
can't talk for 6.15 hours.
You haven't
Wait,
met us.
have
yet.
you shielded Bitcoin through the influencer's account yet?
Yeah, all the fucking time. I do a podcast that actually gets, you know, probably more impressions than this podcast.
Oh, fuck you, bro. Can
That's
we just
it.
cut this? Should we just end the episode on that?
No.
And it's been fun. Thank you for traveling across country.
This is my fucking favorite podcast. Like,
Dude,
there is no podcast that would get me to fucking fly out here. Like, and
Wait, can we come on your podcast?
100%.
There you go.
Why is this podcast so popular, though? What are we doing? Like, what are we doing here?
Dude, you guys are the Bitcoin hang. You're the Joe Rogan of Bitcoin, which is the shit. Like, we need a Bitcoin hang. Like, Stefan Livera is amazing, and all his stuff is so good. But
I love Stefan.
Stefan,
He's
the
too
Teflon Don.
he's too polished, man. We need.
love
I listen to everybody. I think we all listen to all the same podcasts.
It's all part of the same network.
Exactly.
You know,
but
he's
you guys
just
are
a-
you guys are the hang. That's why it's so great.
It's actually, and speaking from experience, somebody who has worked for a company that trailblazed podcasting, in particular with Barstool. That's the crazy thing about Bitcoin, the Bitcoin space, is that the consumers of one podcast consume at least 5 podcasts in the space or something like that.
I'm at the fucking point where I don't even listen to regular podcasts.
What do I actually?
I just listen to Bitcoin podcasts.
I have one podcast I
that's-
listen to that's not a Bitcoin podcast.
Yeah, I listen to the Joe Rogan Experience still, and maybe like a few others.
It's kind of a Bitcoin podcast.
Yeah.
Did you watch his most recent UFO one?
I did.
I watched that over the weekend. Dude.
I haven't watched it yet. Are UFOs real?
You know what?
They are.
That
dude.
one.
How could they not be real?
What, aliens? Did they? Is Satoshi
How
an
could you
alien?
Are we
think
doing
that-
like Pomps thing at the end here?
No, I just
I watched that over the weekend, and it was nothing like I haven't seen before, but it was, in Joe's defense, it was a Navy pilot who was on record on the YouTube video that showed the UFO, so he was the primary source.
and he had him on, right?
He had him on, and he
And the
admitted
guy
to it.
thinks
Like,
it's
yeah,
an alien.
Yeah, he was like, "There's no way."
He described it as like a Tic Tac, and he was like, it would had like a gravity propulsion system.
We do
and-
not have the technology
But the Chinese might.
I don't know. I haven't heard that.
It's you know, there's a video of it, and it seems to move too fast for an electric drivetrain, which is interesting, right? Because it's like, okay, this is not some weird Chinese drone, and this was back in 2004. Like, but that said, like, I don't know how fucking FLIR works. I don't know how infrared cameras work, you know. And I'm a guy who understands cameras. Like, I don't know. I listened to that episode, and I was like, maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's
Is
the other
that
question.
bullet-
Like,
is that
are we in a
bullish?
simulation or are we in the cosmos?
Well, if we're in a simulation, like, fuck you. That would. Are you kidding me?
Dude,
Well,
if we're in a simulation, though, it makes so much sense because we would have all come to this fucking point to see Bitcoin be born. It's like, hey, man, when do you want to come? Do you want to come to the point when you're already rich off Bitcoin and you just live in your mansion and get your dick sucked? No.
And if
you're going to want to come to see Bitcoin be born at inception. And that's where we would have all come because we're all
But
fucking...
why would I come? Like, wouldn't I want to be in, like, 2009?
Well, no, that's the other
Listen,
thing.
bro, I don't know why you chose to be part of the simulation.
Well, that's the other thing about being is the beauty of being in a simulation, like the moment at which the participants in the simulation realize they're in a simulation. Is that what discovering yourself is? And
No, I don't like talking about simulation because if it is a simulation, like, fuck that. That fucking sucks.
well, what if we figure out that?
Why
it's
does
a
it suck,
simulation?
though?
Because, like, I'm making decisions and shit. It's just a waste of time.
Well,
No, but you're making decisions for the simulators to watch what you do.
it's like my daily life is just a waste of time.
Did you ever read Nick Bostrom's original article about
I'm going
the
to take a pee
simulation?
break. I'll be right back.
Oh, this is when we talk about raising the 21 million cap ceiling.
You know what? I think that we need... No, I'm kidding. If we ever raise the 21 million cap, like...
Yeah.
Aren't you out? I'm out. If you guys fucking raise it, I'm out. I don't want to see it raised.
What if it was just like 1%, just to, you know, you just
is
so
like
that
Peter K.
the
Todd's.
fees would
Yeah.
have, there'd be just a constant reward, so you knew that no matter what, there would be a reward for security.
I would only like to see something like that implemented if like things have fucking broken down.
Right,
Like,
that's what I think.
society is broken down because we're now on a fucking Bitcoin standard. and
I
it's
think you
been-
only implement it in like a situation that would be like way
Yeah.
down the road.
People were...
And that's the beauty of it, right? Like you don't want to, because you can't ever come back from it. You can't never.
No.
You'll never have the 21 million cap again.
There's this
So
great...
you try and make the 21 million cap work, but if it came a situation, whatever gives Bitcoin the most value, I'm cool with.
There's this great book called The Mandibles, which is written by the author of Can We Talk About Kevin? I can't remember. But anyway, the book is about basically like
We've raised the cap.
the book is basically about monetary policy, and in the book, the you know, everything goes to shit as we all expect it will in a hyper Bitcoinized world. And they have a fucking currency called the Bancor, which exists over in Europe, and like the person gets their hands on it and shit. And then they go to Nevada, and you know, it's all like the libertarian free state in Nevada, and it's
Is
like
that what Banker is named after?
the Bancor is named after something by Keynes, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bancor is named after an idea by Keynes about
Are we talking about BANCOR?
a global currency.
We're talking about the ICO or the
well,
original idea?
I was talking about a book that uses the same. Anyway, at the end of the book, all the libertarians get together and they're like, yeah, and you know, taxation is only 10%. Like that's reasonable, and everybody's like, yeah, of course it's reasonable. And then the last sentence of the book is, and then taxation rose to 11%. Like that's what it is. It's the creeping factor that's in everything. That's why we can't have inflation in Bitcoin, because once you go there, you just
There's
go
no
to.
stop. It's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope.
I mean, going back to shitting on Ethereum, but it's like Vitalik came out pretty ardently in 2016 and said pretty confidently that there would never, ever be more than 100 million Ether in the next 100 years. And 2 years later, there's 107 million Ether on the market. And that's...
What was the coin? 42 coin or something that has like 52 coins or some shit?
Well,
do you remember that one?
Well, wouldn't it have 42?
Was supposed to.
Well, that's what I think. That's what I think. A lot of these other projects don't realize is as soon as you set the precedent, like that's all that needs to be done.
Exactly.
Is the precedent set is that you give an inch,
Well, I mean, the limit isn't
and the
code.
market will take a mile.
The limit isn't code; it's social.
Yes,
That's what people, I think, don't realize. Like, a lot of people don't realize. It's like all these, like, there's tons of altcoin chains that have whatever their limit is, right? And that's not really a limit because it's not actually enforced.
That's
it needs to be socially enforced.
That's ignorance and apathy and all the stuff we were talking about earlier. Like, hyper Bitcoinization is going to occur. You know, it's not going to occur like the way it's laid out in that Nakamoto Institute article. It's going to be more, I think, what Safe says, where it's like, you know, we take out a few cards and we add a few cards to the new house of cards. But it's going to fucking happen. And so, what the fuck was I talking about? I'm drunk as fuck.
It is. I mean,
you just started talking about hyper Bitcoin.
No, we're talking about like
That's
the ability for alt chains to inflate their supply pretty rudimentally, pretty easily.
Exactly.
And Bitcoin is not, at least up to this point, 11 years in.
What I'm saying is
Even
it's
as
going to be
close.
really hard to fucking fight this when we're all dead. You know what I mean? Like, we're the generation that knows what it is to live in a debased monetary standard. And we haven't even seen the true fractures of that system. Like, the system has not even collapsed yet.
I guess the real question is, like, will someone be running... Will there be a large group of people running Bitcoin nodes in 20 years?
No.
Right?
It'll be centralized. Like,
But
that's what
like-
happens.
But so that's not good, right?
Yeah, well, it's unless we can find some meme that is basically like, I'll come back from my grave and fucking haunt you.
No, what you have to do is, like, running a node gets you everlasting riches and big titty bitches or something. Like, why
know what? That's
running a
true.
node should be glamorous.
Well, if you have 6.15 and you're not running a node, like, fuck yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, what would be the impetus to force people to run nodes, right?
No,
Like,
wait, we're not forcing anybody. To run.
No, like, I mean,
This is a voluntary system.
what would be the impetus to incentivize somebody to run a node, right? Like, if you have a situation in which people are feeding people who aren't using full nodes bad headers or something, and you have like a proliferation of people sending Bitcoin UTXOs out to addresses that they don't see fit, like, maybe that is the impetus for
Well,
people
I
to
think
run full nodes
privacy-
and validate.
I think privacy is the easiest fucking sell on Bitcoin node. Like, you tell them sovereignty, you tell them they're trying to protect the system, like decentralization, all this shit, they will never do it. You tell them that you can't interact, like, they don't care that about the trust profile or whatever. Even though, like, you can't interact with Bitcoin with minimized trust if you don't use your own full node. But what they do care about is if you tell them the most private way you can use Bitcoin is if you run your own full node, I think we will get a lot more people. And I think Bitcoin will have failed if we don't have a large, like, geographically diverse group running Bitcoin nodes in their homes and in their offices. And, you know, like, not every person in the family has to run it, but, like, Uncle Mitch should be running his Bitcoin full node and everyone connects to it. Or
We
whatever.
need that Blockstream set-top box that goes straight to the satellite. You know what I mean? That's what what Rodolfo was talking about.
Well, and speaking of Rodolfo and Blockstream and Cold Card in particular, today they released a tutorial, Cold Card did, of setting up a cold card with BTC Pay. Oh, she doesn't have her keys. My wife's here. She needs the keys.
Marty's wife is here and needs the keys. By the way, the relegation studio is pimp. I'm just going to say, Marty's place is nice. It's clear he has 6.15.
What the fuck was I talking about?
For fucking forget, man.
The
Oh, running your own nodes,
Oh, yeah, so-
privacy, sovereignty.
It's everything wrapped up into one.
so BTC Pay and Cold Card in particular.
Oh, right.
The impetus for running a full node may not be sending transactions, but receiving transactions. That's the point I was trying to make, because the tutorial that I brought up, like hooking up Cold Card to BTC Pay, makes it so that you literally can offline set up a UTXO set that you drop on BTC Pay server that never touches an online server.
It's definitely receiving.
Yes.
Is the key. Is
Yes,
private
exactly.
receiving.
Private receiving may be the impetus to use Bitcoin privately. That's what I'm saying. And it's just from use case, like using it in that fashion, that has like made me realize, like, holy shit, nobody knows who sent me this Bitcoin.
Because in a lot of ways,
nobody knows these
actually,
addresses exist.
sending a transaction, you're better off doing it without your own node.
Yes.
Like if you send it through a mesh or something like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost better to not send it through your node. It's like
Yeah.
first step.
Yeah. Let me ask-
Receiving privately is key.
Let me ask this though, like, how do you convince normal people that don't have an illicit mean to do that?
Well, why do people use
because it's
encrypted
so
messengers?
once you experience it,
That's
it's
true.
like fuck,
That's true.
dude, this is
No, people have to care about their privacy, right? And people will care about their privacy because their privacy will continue to get violated until they fucking care about it.
That's true.
Right? And we're seeing that happen. And we're seeing, there's a new war on encryption and whatnot. And there's going to be countless cases where people realize why they should care about their privacy. And it's going to fucking happen, I think. And if it doesn't, like, that's sad. And I'll be upset about it. Right? But I might as well bank on that. On people,
You guys
waking
should
up.
see how disappointed Matt was when he looked me in the eyes when he was like,
Very
blowing your
angry.
OPSEC right now. I was like, I know, Matt, I don't give a fuck. He was like,
I'm just trying to get
How
people to
dare
stay
you.
humble, bro. And you're just doing the exact fucking opposite.
this is just
And
me,
then,
bro.
like, part of when I got triggered last night was because someone was giving me shit about their like stacking sats is an irresponsible meme. And I'm like,
Who said
no,
that?
stacking sats is like the most responsible meme. But some people decide to stack large amounts and post screenshots of it on fucking Twitter, and it makes it makes it the whole lifestyle look more
Degenerate.
less conservative, higher risk, right? Like the whole point.
more
I think,
nipple flick.
Here, let me tell you where I'm coming from on this. What, like, the reason why I inserted this into the stacking stats meme is because, like, Trace was saying, like, he was like, we're moving into a more hyper competitive sphere of Bitcoin. And I think he's right because the scarcity is kicking in hardcore.
What do you mean by a hyper competitive sphere?
So the scarcity is kicking in hardcore, and we're all, being like, looking at each other like, okay, our investment's not going to go to zero. We all already believe this shit, that it's going to fucking be the world currency. So we need to get our hands on as many fucking sats as possible. Hyper competitive. What 6.15 does is it makes it a gentleman's club. It's like we're fencing. You know what I mean? We're basically being like, hey, bro, I stacked this many. How many are you going to stack? It's like brinksmanship, When I saw you guys initially stacking like $5 and $10, I was like, this is not enough.
we were trying to be
These
responsible.
motherfuckers need to stack so much more,
We're trying to make it more accessible.
Yeah, but it's...
It's stacking sats. It's not stacking Bitcoin. It's
You know
like
what?
you're.
It's trying to get people away from
Agree to
high-tech
disagree. No, I'm
preference.
kidding. I hate when fucking people say that.
Well, also, people don't have those stacks to sat. Like,
That's true.
those stacks to fucking drop on sats.
No, I just.
But it's getting
Yeah.
it's scarcer and scarcer every day. Like, you need to get your fucking
Well, like
hands on as many.
6.15 isn't enough.
No, it's
like
not.
You should at least go for billionaire status, which is 10.
10 is billionaire status. That's a billion sats. I
There you
agree.
go.
But remember back in the day, we had the 21 Club. Like, I don't think new Bitcoiners know about the 21 Club.
21
But
Club is what you should strive for.
There's this other guy. who
1
was,
millionth
like,
of the whole supply.
During the run up in 2017, he had like what was it, like 2.15 or something. He had his own number. There was this other guy who had a number that was like 2 point something. He was like, he mathematically figured it out. That was the amount you needed.
See, that's where he fucked up because I just fucking winged it. I was like, 6.15
Is it because it's big?
sounds good
Is it
to
because
me.
it looks like big? Is that why?
Dude, somebody just asked me how many Bitcoin I had, and I was like,
And like, what's wrong?
6.15.
I just want to defend small titties for a second because I think small titties are beautiful, and I feel like you.
This
No,
came
no,
out
no,
of
no.
nowhere.
We got to get into this.
This
because,
came
all
out
right,
of nowhere.
All right, no,
Yeah.
no. Here's the thing.
Like,
I
titties are
agree.
great in
I
general.
agree. Listen, if you're gonna buy for the long term, you buy small titties. You know what I'm saying? You don't buy big titties. They're gonna depreciate. They're hella inflationary. Like, they're gonna sag. Like, that's just how it is. I'm sorry, ladies, whoever's listening to this.
But smaller titties are a scarcer asset because like anyone can produce big titties.
Let's
You
be real
can't
too.
produce-
When you're a real man, you don't give a fuck about small titties. You're like, that ain't stopping me. Like, let's do this thing. You know what I'm saying?
There we go. I'm glad that we got him on the record.
No. All right. Now here's the thing. What?
Marty doesn't want to respond.
What Eternal Riches and Big Titty Bitches is? It's a shitcoin pitch. It's a shitcoin pitch for Bitcoin.
Isn't everlasting riches?
Everlasting riches. and
Whatever the
big
fuck it is.
titty.
I don't
I
know.
like everlasting. I think it's
Oh,
nice.
and to be clear, I'm a big fan of titties everywhere, no matter the
all
size.
titty sizes.
I agree. Fist bump. We can agree on that. No, here's the thing. It's like, it's a shitcoin pitch, Like, I'm not some fucking playboy douchebag who's out at the Vegas clubs or whatever slamming puss. Like, I have a wife and I have a wife and child and another baby on the way. I'm like, I'm a fucking family man. Okay, but that said, if you get in,
You can't speak like this.
if you get in for the 6.15 and the big titty bitches, like, along the way, you're gonna.
It's a metaphor.
Along the way, you're gonna become a hardened individual who wants to like move out to Wyoming and take control of your monetary sovereignty. You know what I mean? So it's a lure. It's like a fish. I'm fishing for these noobs. You know?
Do you think Bitcoiners are inherently like family men, that they have kids and they quest to have kids?
I think Bitcoiners are more conservative by nature.
That plays into the time preference thing, right? Because families are more low time preference.
Families are super low time preference. And by the way, like, if you listen to culture writ large, like, you're being told, like, you should, like...
Twerk, 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 twerk.
Yeah, you should get a dog.
Well, if you care about the environment, you shouldn't have any kids.
Right, exactly.
You should eat bugs.
Greta Thunberg.
I'm
wants to
never
rub
gonna eat
bugs
bugs
in your eyes.
I'm
That's
not
my
eating the
American
bugs.
privilege.
I will not eat the bugs.
No bugs.
I tried one of those cricket bars. They're fucking gross.
Why?
It tastes bad.
Actually, I would probably do like the powdered.
They
cricket
grind them
shit.
into a powder.
Yeah,
and
it's
shit.
like it's just protein powder.
Yeah, it's not like legs in the bar or
It's
whatever. But they
whatever.
don't taste good. They taste bad, man.
Yeah, it's
You know?
protein. I couldn't like actually like eat like one of those like Vietnam carts or whatever. You know,
I don't know if
like
you guys
where
know
you had
anything.
like a food cart.
I don't know if you guys know anything about Jonathan Haidt's work. Jonathan Haidt is a social psychologist who's a Harvard guy, and he wrote this book called The Coddling of the American Mind. He wrote this book called The Righteous Mind, and basically talks about the difference between liberals and conservatives. And conservatives have a much deeper moral palette, where their moral palette is more like, purity is part of your moral palette, and you more subscribe to hierarchy, et cetera, et cetera. And liberals tend to just have care, harm reduction. Now, when I use like conservative liberal, that's not to mean like you voted for Trump, you voted for Bernie, whatever. Like, Bitcoin invites everybody into the tent. It doesn't matter who you are. It is to say that the people that are here early tend to be more on the conservative side, although it's not always true.
I think it's just fuck the system.
Yeah.
Like we have radical left, we have radical right.
Well, it's not even fuck the system. It's like, let's build a new system, but that system is inherently built on principles that are inherently conservative.
That's why I'm fucking here.
It's
Like,
fuck the system.
if anarchy was just fuck the system, I wouldn't fucking be here. You know what I mean? Like, I would be somewhere else doing
Well,
something
this
else.
isn't pure anarchy.
Well,
Yes, it is.
No, because there's still rules.
I mean,
Yeah, but
it's
anarchy
pure
doesn't-
anarchy
anarchy
in the
doesn't-
fact that anybody can come and go. It's
right.
Right, but
Anarchy
it's-
doesn't have to mean there's no rules.
But it's like we have consensus rules, right?
Yeah, but anybody
Like
can.
the system runs on rules.
Yeah, but anybody can download any version of the rules that they so please.
Well, wouldn't pure anarchy be like a barter system?
No,
You wouldn't have like a universal account.
no, because
Well,
you would
pure-
still measure. You would
pure-
still measure like distance in kilometers and stuff
we need
like
like
that.
Francis.
I do like
pull out
that.
or somebody here.
I do like that. We have to help CK put that into the common
Well,
lexicon.
that's the other thing. So
Bitcoin's
like
the metric system.
The meme
of
of
value.
Bitcoin being the metric system of value, that has to be taken with a grain of salt. It will never be such that you can measure value the way you can measure distance.
Why not?
Because you have different,
It's just the sats.
but you have different goods entering the economy that have like different pricing information that isn't priced in automatically.
But
So,
things are different sizes.
yes, they're different sizes, but like you can't measure economic creation right away.
One thing
Like
that
that's why pricing exists.
one thing that I think is interesting here is that meters do not have a symbol.
But
Everyone wants
I
a
mu-
symbol for sats.
I must preface
Meters
this.
do not have a symbol.
I must say that it will be closer to that metric system that we envision.
It'll
It's
just
just not
be
a
a-
perfect metric system.
We don't need a symbol for sats. All we need is a lowercase s at the end of the number. And then it's just like meters, but for value.
The letter S is the symbol for sats.
Right.
We own the letter S. Fuck off.
That's like a huge debate that's going on that I don't even.
Did you see
Does
the
it
one,
even
Matt?
matter?
What did you think about the one that was the sat with the lightning bolt and the?
It's all right. I
Yeah.
just don't think we need a symbol. I think sats will be the standard. So when you see a number and you see a little s behind it, like that's how many sats it's worth. And that's that.
I like that.
It's like meters.
Yeah.
I
So
do as well.
sats are the metric system of value.
Are we
It's
going to
an
change?
evolution of CK's meme?
Are we going to change all the clocks to Bitcoin time?
Yes.
to block time?
Well, that's a
Would that be
debate,
really
right?
bad, actually? Because
Well, there'd be some sort
Poisson, what is it? Poisson?
Poisson
distribution.
The Poisson distribution.
Poison distribution.
There was a 2-hour block last week.
Yeah, you can't do short-term time.
You
based off
can't
of block
be
time.
like, yo, meet me at block
But I think
623,000.
years. I could see years being like I recently did Pirate Beach Bum's diaries again, and he did. I was part of the bear market diaries, and then I was also part of the bull market diaries, and like nothing has fucking changed. But one thing that changed.
Are we in a bull market though? Can we call it
I
the
don't
bull
even
are
market?
in a
there?
bull market.
It doesn't matter. I don't
Are
even
we in a
think
bull market till we go past 20,000?
But the
Listen, if
question
anybody
is-
is like, hey, 5,500
Right.
inbound, fuck
the
them.
real question is when I did it the first time, were we even in a bear market? But that's besides the point. One thing that did change, all the questions were like basically the same and almost nothing changed. One thing that did change was he had the question, when did you first find Bitcoin? And I put it in block time.
That's amazing.
And I think year-wise, like when you
Trilogy
start talking about years, like, you know, we 1900 AD, right? We picked an arbitrary point in time and we started doing time. Like maybe that's the Genesis block now. Like I could see year time easily being just whatever.
This may,
100%.
this may sound taboo right now, but the person who introduced this concept to my life was Andrew DeSantis. Like DeSantis, that was...
It's a little bit controversial now.
I still love DeSantis, man. Like, DeSantis got my brain firing in a way that I was...
Dude, I met
Where
him
did he go? Where is he?
He's over on Bitcoin SV right now.
He's a BSVer? Wait. Honestly, this is the first time I'm ever hearing of it. He's a BSVer?
I believe so. I'm
What
not
is
sure.
up with these fuckers? I was going through Daniel Krawitz's fucking timeline today, and I was like, dude, you wrote so much bomb content for the Nakamoto Institute. Like,
Hyper Bitcoinization was.
why are
Daniel
you
Krawietz
following
creation.
some fucking piece of shit Australian con man for BSV? It's like, all right, it's like Kevin Pham, right? Like sometimes when I go super hard on Bitcoin Twitter,
But they're getting paid. Kevin Pham's
no, I
getting
know,
paid,
I know.
right?
When I go super hard on Bitcoin Twitter, I
Can't
think
confirm nor deny.
I think, okay, what if somebody wanted to pay me to switch? You know, what
It's
would
not
I?
worth it, dude. This
what
is
would I
a
do?
long-term reputation game.
Well, yeah, that's
no
what I'm saying.
amount of money.
I wouldn't do it. Like the reason I fucking flew here to Brooklyn is to just meet you guys and fucking go on the pod because you're both gonna be wealthy motherfuckers in the future, and I want to know you.
I don't own any Bitcoins.
Yeah,
What
no,
is
Matt
Bitcoin?
doesn't have any, but I want to know you guys just so I can get invited to the ranch or wherever the fuck, and we can all be friends. You know.
I lost all my Bitcoin in a tragic shitcoin accident.
It was terrible. I was
He
there.
was trying to get in on ETH 2.0.
I lost my bag of Bitcoin as well. I watched it drop to the bottom of the ocean. No, but it is.
We're building the Citadel network.
Oh my god, the Citadel's real. Okay, it's real.
But they're not real yet, but they will be.
They
I'm not a
will
big-
be
I'm
real.
not a big fan of the Citadel future. Again,
I
going
don't
back to
like this. Why not?
Why don't you
It
just buy
makes
all
sense.
of
It makes
Williamsburg,
sense.
man, and that can be your Citadel.
Oh God, I would never make Williamsburg my Citadel. I'm getting far the fuck away.
Have
from
you
New
read
York
Snow
City.
Crash?
I've not yet.
Snow Crash is like a pretty good template of what I
Asmonov
expect.
is.
I need to read it too. It's on my list.
Yeah, it's a big
Everything I believe that's gonna happen in the future is just like
In Snow Crash.
Isaac.
no.
Asimov,
It's just like a mix of all the sci-fi I've read. It's like, it's like it's not original thought, but it's just
It's all
a
the
combination
cyberpunk
of
shit,
other
yeah.
people's.
Well, that's sort of the beauty of that genre of sci-fi in particular. A lot of it has come true, and so I'm more drawn to. I don't even know if you consider it nonfiction, but like the sovereign individual. But I'm drawn to nonfiction, like people who write about things that have happened in the past.
The sovereign individual is just like a fucking how-to manual. Like,
It's a template.
yeah, everything in that book
It is
so
crazy.
so
It's
prescient,
crazy, dude.
so prescient. Like it's crazy. You know.
On page 27, The Revenge of Nations, or 24. It's 24 or 27, or 21.
It's in the 20s.
No, I think it's
probably.
25. Are you talking
Maybe
about the
25.
Bitcoin page? The Bitcoin
Yes.
page is 25.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
he was all over the place.
Yeah.
No, he was right in the right.
It was in the
ballpark.
range,
You
but,
know,
like,
you know
page-
the only reason I know that the only reason I know that is because I listened to an early episode of Marty's on the way here where he was talking with Pierre and he said the exact page number. I didn't remember the exact.
Marty said it?
So Marty said it. I'm
Old
just
Marty.
feeding your own shit back.
So
also hilarious.
HT Old Marty.
Your first ad was, I don't know if anybody's ever listened. to this.
Grant Arnett.
The first ad was for like just some dev who needed work.
Grant Our boy Grant.
And his email was like, the new season of Curb is mediocre at
Yes.
gmail.com.
Yes.
So fucking funny.
$50 paid in Bitcoin.
Where's he at now?
I don't know.
I hope Grant's listening.
Grant, if you're still listening,
Give
reach
us a
out.
shout out.
He's got to
Yeah.
be there.
We'll give you a free ad read next week.
We just kind of gave you free ad read. I think we just said
That
his
was your
email
read,
address.
Grant.
Last season of Curb, or the new season of Curb, is mediocre.
Let me ask you guys this question. How do you feel about the Bitcoin plebe thing?
Pleb, right?
I think it's plebe because it's plebeian. Short for plebeian.
Plebeian.
Yeah,
Is
it's a taste thing. I say pleb,
I say plebe.
plebeian.
Once a pleb, always a pleb.
Yeah. No, I think it's.
I love the Bitcoin plebs.
I wish.
They're not plebs.
I would exactly. They're not plebs. They're like.
That's what I keep telling them. I'm like, be fucking future masters of the universe. Like, you don't have to be fucking plebs.
And just like
It's a humble thing.
Exactly, and observationally, just like looking out. Again, like what I'm looking at it as is like, and I've seen it like the taco stuff and all that shit. Like,
I love tacos.
Like it seems like a group of people who are learning about Bitcoin at the same time and sort of having a similar trajectory to come into understanding and using each other to like test ideas and stuff like that, which is beautiful. I actually wish I had a community like that when we, like in 2015, 2016,
Right.
when like I was a lurker on Twitter and would love to like, and like we
did
didn't have
a community
Telegram.
like that though, like Reddit and stuff. I
Yeah, but, like-
Ish. It was different though because
It was like Bitcoin Talk,
yeah, it was different. because
Reddit, like anybody, like it was.
You'd post something like, or for me, I'd post something noobish, and Luke Dash Jr. would tell me to shut the fuck up and how
you
wrong
ever
I
on
was.
IRC?
No, I was never on IRC.
I was on the IRC.
See, I was pure like in my
but it was all over my head. I was there just to be there. you
my
know?
journey alone was bitcointalk.org and Twitter. That's what I use mostly.
Reddit, you weren't on Reddit?
Was not on Reddit.
Reddit was popping back in the day.
I know
it
it was
sucks now.
I never use Reddit anymore.
Reddit sucks, man. It's just a bunch of noobs telling other noobs to be scared.
I never
I love
liked.
noobs.
I never liked Reddit's UI of like. I never liked the threading of Reddit. It never was like for.
We have good
It's
Bitcoiners.
very
though.
gameable.
Good Bitcoiners are
That-
mods on Reddit. Like Mr. Hodl's a mod. Hearns is a mod. You know,
Stop
there's
and
good
Decrypt.
mods.
Bashco.
Bashco is a mod. I was talking shit on Reddit and they like got mad at me and I was like, hey, listen, I'm sorry guys. Like I thank you for the work you're doing, but there's a lot of noobs on there talking about shitcoins. It's become like r-cryptocurrency, you know, because
My
Well,
only
that's-
experience with Reddit recently is I'm a mainstay of r/Monero
Yeah, you are.
what they keep posting you.
because whenever I post about Bitcoin privacy, they like post in r/Monero about how I should have used Monero, and they
Monero
have
has
a
no
they,
scale.
they have an acronym for it now. It's SHUM. Should have used Monero, which I actually love. I think it's great.
Well, that was actually.
It's like our inside joke
Why
that
can't
we
we
have
just use
together.
Shub?
That
They
was,
just use
uh,
Bitcoin.
Next time you see a Bitcoin privacy tweet by me, look underneath it. There'll be at least a couple
Shum.
people that say shum,
SHUM.
and I will have liked it because it's like our little inside joke.
Shub.
They're
It's the Bitcoin version.
reported by the Block today.
Fuck the Block.
93% of dark markets on the internet use Bitcoin.
Support Bitcoin.
Support or accept Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then what I found appealing, if this fact is true, is that of the cryptocurrencies that are used, there's three that are mainly used, and it's Bitcoin, Monero, and Litecoin, and not Ethereum, which I thought would be
Why would
Number
anyone use Ethereum for?
Dude, I don't know
illegal
why, but
things?
fucking
more liquidity, right?
noobs love Litecoin. They love it. It's
Right.
crazy.
That Litecoin was the biggest. Like, people are using Litecoin. over
People
Ethereum.
love Litecoin. It just makes sense to them. It's like a penny stock for the masses.
It's faster.
Yeah. They love it.
Litecoin is like my least favorite of all.
Because they're like, oh, I can't afford $10,000 Bitcoin. I'll buy Litecoin.
It doesn't make any sense.
We need to price everything in sats. Can we just talk about that shit? Like, everything should be
Dude,
priced in sats.
6.15. It's
I'm
615
It's 650 million
sats.
I know.
Everlasting riches.
I knew he
big
was going to
titty
hit me with
bitches.
this shit. And you know
And
what?
also little titties. Just all titties. Just
All the
titties.
all the
Lots of titties.
You know what the thing that sucks? Matt's right. Matt's right. Because it should have been sats. It should have been sat-based meme.
I was like a little bit. It was like a little bit of a slap in the face, right? Wasn't it? Am I wrong to think that?
jilted. You're a little jilted.
Because I liked it. I was like, this is a pretty cool meme. I'm with it. But
But it would be a lot better if it was
yeah,
denominated in sats.
yeah, it was questionable.
You know what
It was
6.15
questionable.
is? It's our 589. Like XRP had 589. Remember that shit?
Well, Sats
Oh,
the
we get-
standard. That's what I like that one that I took from them.
Dude, Stack Sats is the best. That honestly, like Matt, like if I was some governing body that could give you an award,
I don't want the award.
I would suck your dick and give you an award right now.
Don't suck my dick.
I'm going to. Like,
You don't
hey,
have big
podcast
titties.
listeners, like I'm about to unbuckle Matt's pants.
And we're getting into the after hours part of this podcast right now.
That's-
Buckle in, put on your seatbelt, and
We gotta
make sure
bleep
you
that
have your
part.
helmet on.
No, but seriously, Stack Sats is the fucking greatest meme. It's the greatest.
We
'Cause
need to make
it,
dollar cost averaging sexy.
it makes HODL active instead of passive. It's the fucking best.
Yeah, you don't want to just buy and hold.
Exactly.
You need to accumulate. You
Yeah.
need to increase the stack.
Well, no, and it goes back to something I was touching on earlier, like fuck bitches get money, like stack racks and shit like that. Like
Yeah.
just subconsciously, you need something
But that's why we need the jewelry.
where people like just innately know, like stacking sats. Like, oh, duh, I gotta buy a little Bitcoin.
so
I
are
know.
you still against
If I'm
the
not-
jewelry?
No, the jewelry.
I'm not
is-
going to buy the jewelry.
Yeah, but it's not
I
for
do.
you.
I will acknowledge that it will be bought by others.
It's not for you though.
But
'cause-
it's
And it will
good.
be-
It's good
yes,
for
I
the
agree.
virality of the.
I just don't want to be the impetus for that.
Maybe we'll sell some.
it needs to go in the hood. You know?
Maybe TFTC should be the
Well, this is
people who do the.
This is something that
6.15
this is something that Bitcoin
jewelry.
can enable. Something
Listen.
like Lightning Network can enable. If you contribute X amount of stats to this show, provable by these invoices, you can get a banner that says you are
a banner.
or a piece of
No,
jewelry.
I want something that a rapper can wear around his
Hey,
neck.
I think
that
Rodolfo
people
is
know.
working on it because we reached out to him on Twitter and like.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Rodolfo. Every time I get drunk with Rodolfo, I try and get him to make this piece of jewelry. So.
Dude, by the way, Rodolfo, lower the price of your clock. Like, I want that clock super fucking bad, but
no,
like,
but
I can't.
It's hard
the
to make.
margins are tight. Like he's
I
not
can't
making,
afford it, man.
He's not making much
No,
money.
I know.
From that
He
clock.
deserves. Listen, he deserves to sell that clock for the price it is. But I fucking want that clock, and I can't spend $4,000 on it. That's just how it is, man.
But in Bitcoin terms, the price keeps going down.
I know. It's true.
So that's like an important thing to keep in mind.
I want that clock so fucking bad.
Just
you
wait.
guys.
It's a hot clock.
It's a hot clock.
I'll buy the clock in like 5 years. It'll be.
But he's only gonna make
it's gonna-
500. It might not be there.
He'll make me one. I think.
So if you make new ones, I'm not buying that clock, Rodolfo.
So what do you think, like, going forward are going to be the main impetuses for pushing Bitcoin into people's minds? Like, do you think Bitcoin's going to be forced onto people, or do you think Bitcoin are going to come to Bitcoin?
I think Bitcoin's gonna be forced on people.
What the fuck? Why?
People won't act without fear. People don't think about their monetary sovereignty. Nobody thinks about
Oh,
that.
but like forced by option. Like
Forced
they'll
by
have no
option.
choice.
Yeah.
They'll have
I
no
don't mean
choice
like
but to-
by us. Yeah,
They'll have to think about it because the decision, their hand is
because of
forced.
circumstance. They're gonna be forced by
Yes.
circumstance. You know,
And it'll
it's
be too late at that point.
like it's like in
to a
Mr.
degree.
Robot when they have like E Corp coin and
Is
Bitcoin.
Mr. Robot the rubric basically?
Honestly, they got it pretty close. Like it's gonna be.
It probably won't be a hacker that takes down the system. The
Yeah.
system will just have like a ridiculous recession.
The thing is, like, if you would have invested in property back in the early 70s, like, people would have thought you were crazy,
Yeah.
So people think we're crazy now for, like, if you would have bought property across in Manhattan, people would have thought you were insane. They think we're insane now, and soon we'll be proven right. And then, we're like 20 years out from people being like, I should have bought property. And then it'll still be a good time for them to fucking buy property, but they won't do it. So it's just a cycle that repeats. Like, most people are not going to be saved. It sucks. Noah went around talking about the Ark and was like, hey, listen, all you dumb motherfuckers, get on my fucking Ark. I want you to come. I'm sick of these goddamn penguins and these fucking camels, whoever I got on this Ark.
I'm here for you.
You need to come on this Ark too, okay?
Allegedly.
Get the fuck on this Ark. And they were like, hey, Noah's fucking crazy. He's a crazy dumbass. Fuck him.
This dude's saying it's going to rain for 40 days and 40 nights.
And then it rained. And
But I think
know what I'm saying?
even if you're late, Bitcoin is still. It's one of those things that doesn't matter what time you get in.
can we say that no
Right.
one's late?
That's what I
yet?
think, yeah.
No one's late yet.
Well, definitely not yet, but maybe ever.
I think the
right?
time,
Maybe ever.
yeah.
Like, is there ever a late time to like have like a digital cash?
You know
or
what?
whatever? Like
I'm gonna
something
say-
you could spend online where no one can block you and
I'm
you
gonna
can
say
just
no.
transfer your wealth
Yeah,
and hold
this is
your
like
wealth.
Star Trek credits, motherfucker. Like, you know what I mean? In real life.
Well, all the sci-fi had credits.
Exactly.
They always just default to credits.
It's
but it's
galactic.
Bitcoin.
You have so many galactic credits, you know.
In your mind,
But that all assumes a central authority too.
well,
Wait,
in your mind,
think
how
about
do we
it.
fail?
couldn't
How do we
think of it.
fail in your mind?
How do we fail in my mind? Apathy is how we fail. I think we fail. Okay. In my mind, I think we fail because we succeed, and then our great grandchildren don't give a fuck, and then our great 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 grandchildren really don't give a fuck.
So this is the meme. What is it? Hard times create hard men.
Exactly. It's the same meme. Yeah.
Yeah, like good times create
Hard men create good times. Good
Hard men
times
create good times.
Weak men. Weak men create bad times. Bad times
men
create
create-
good men.
Yeah.
I think that is a
Yeah.
cycle that is inherent to humanity, and we cannot rid ourselves of it, like for at least the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, it is very unfortunate. That said, I think that, I have 2 girls. I think they're gonna grow up and be like, Daddy was part of this thing, and he was on this podcast with these guys. I think they're gonna have some pride in it, and they're gonna carry the torch forward. And then I think their children carry the torch forward, and then I think their children will be like, what was the thing?
Wait,
And then
But apathy, in terms of apathy, like if you look at rich people, the children have all sorts of different issues and whatnot, but one of their issues is not protecting their money. That is one thing that there's an innate human
trust
desire.
fund babies.
most wealth
to
is
make
lost by
sure
the
that their
third generation.
But regardless of that, is like they want to try and protect that money as much as possible, right? So if protecting that money is, running a full node and knowing what your obligations are as like a full Bitcoin citizen, like maybe the apathy is built out of the system because of the financial incentive, basically, is that they're trying to protect their future wealth. And that's the one thing that they do truly understand is that they want to keep that money that they just walked into or born into or whatever.
I wish you were right, but I think that we're gonna be living in a future that's much more similar to our current reality, where they have all these, high time preference options to be able to spend their wealth, and things seem like, well, if I spend it over here, I can make more into the future, and those things are hallucinations. They're an oasis, right? Like, they're not real, and
So Bitcoin doesn't fix that.
Bitcoin doesn't fix humanity. It really doesn't. Like it puts us back to who we were. Like the last 200 years, 100 years of centralization have been a fluke in humanity's history. But we're going back to how it used to be. Like all this talk about yellow journalism, right? It's all fake news. That's just fucking yellow journalism, man. It was always yellow journalism because you had to fucking sell newspapers, right?
Well, and then let's get into the conversation of, is our current condition worth it? Is working in a cube from 9 to 5, living that soul-sucking life, crunching Excel spreadsheets, is that what we're fucking here to do?
Hell no.
And that's Matt, what you were alluding to earlier, does Bitcoin fix that? I think Bitcoin can provide the structure from which we can get away from the cube life, right? You can accumulate cap. What is the cube life at the end of the day? You're living paycheck to paycheck.
We're not going to need humans for cubes because we'll just have robots, right?
We hope.
Well,
we hope. But somebody's gonna have
but
to manage
before
the
that
robots,
point,
right?
I'm even talking before that point. If you are working in a cube, if you are working 9 to 5, realize the mechanics of your being, what you are doing. You are. And I was there. I can only say this because I'm living from experience. You are a cog in a machine punching numbers into a spreadsheet.
You're a fucking cow in a field grazing grass. You know what I mean?
And I don't want to get too heavy or
For real, though.
depressing here, but that's what are we here for? What the fuck are we doing? What are we here for? Is it to explore new realities that Bitcoin can create? That's what I believe we think we're here for. But like, at the end of the day, like, I don't think we're here to plug numbers into a spreadsheet. And even if you
no.
are putting your neck out on a limb with Bitcoin and being like, oh, this is something new that may not be palatable to most people, but fuck it. Like, this is something that seems better than what we're doing now. And that's what I'm willing to risk it for that biscuit. That's where I'm at.
Bitcoin at least makes you carnivorous again, where you're a predator and you're going to take down the big stack and then you're going to fucking rest and then you're going to hunt and kill and take down the big stack and then you're going to rest. Like, at least you're not going to be like some fucking grazing animal in a fucking pasture, like ready to be fucking shot with that stupid gun from No Country for Old Men. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, at least you're not that. At least you're not subservient to them. At least you're your own person, no matter what happens. Chips fall where they may, you know?
Well, that's what I worry about, though. Are we those people, or are we just... is that some romanticism that we hope we get to? Like, are we still working in with some weird framework?
Man, I fucking feel like it right now. Like, I fucking feel like we're those guys, you know? Like, that we have high conviction, and we're changing the landscape. Is it romanticism? I don't know. I have millions of dollars at stake. Matt doesn't want me to say that.
We're aware. We're
Stay
very
humble.
aware.
Stay humble. Matt doesn't want me to say that shit, but I want you fucking fuckers to know. I'm risking it for the biscuit, okay? I'm risking it because I believe in this. You know, what that is to me and my family is that is like a very nice...
What does your family mean to you?
Everything.
What is your family? Is it you and your wife and your kids?
It's me
going
and my wife and my
forward, or-
2 daughters, and I basically have no one else. So it's just my immediate family, like my family of origin, who I created. Like, that means everything to me. And I'm risking part of their sovereignty and their financial future for Bitcoin, which is like, it sounds crazy. You know, I should be putting my money in stupid ETFs or some gay shit like that.
Bonds.
You know, yeah, bonds. I should be buying fucking negative yield bonds like a bitch, like somebody who just like a fucking cow who just goes moo and just fucking eats the grass. That's what I should be doing. But I refuse to do it because, for one, all right, here's the thing. Investing aside, I fucking love being right. Like, I fucking love it.
Isn't it great?
It's the best. When they tell you, like, in the bear market, when they're like, hey, you're going to lose all your money, and then the next price is going to be, you know, 300K or some shit, and we're just going to be there like, suck a dick, suck it. And they're
It's the best feeling ever. I'm in it for the tech.
I'm in it for the tech. I'm in it for the tech too. Like, I fucking love to be right. I don't even care about the paper gains. I don't care what I can buy with the money. I fucking love being right. I love it. It feels so good. It feels so goddamn good.
This is primal.
It really
It's so primal. Like, because everybody told me I was wrong. And I was like, fuck off.
I have the same visceral feelings that you do. How are we wrong, though? Like, that is always my biggest question, is how are we wrong? Because
We're not wrong. We're just tuned in. Like, destruction is a fucking loud act. Destruction is loud.
what are we destroying? Are we destroying or are we
No, I'm
creating
saying
right
like
now?
the current system is going to be destroyed because it's going to destroy itself. Like, it's like a decaying tree. And we're like a bunch of little fucking mammals who are at the base of this tree being like, this tree looks decayed. And everybody's like, that tree has stood for 1,000 years. And we're like, it's going to fall any second now. And they're like, no, it's not. It'll always be here. And we know that it's going to fall. And when it falls, it's going to be a loud and noisy act. And what we're looking at is a sapling that's quietly growing in silence that's going to take its place. And that fucking sapling is Bitcoin. Okay? Suck a dick. I can do analogies too, Ben Hunt. Ben Hunt came on here and analogized like a motherfucker. I can do that shit. And what you are is a person who's tuned in to the silence. You listen to the silence.
Right? No, and it's... I feel like we're at...
You're smart, Marty. You're smart as balls.
I feel like we're in Zelda Ocarina times right now. We're at the Deku tree, right? That's what Bitcoin is, like the little Deku tree
That's
that
a
can
fucking
grow into.
amazing reference, by the way.
It is... No, but I agree with what you're saying. Like, it is... And I'm being a little antagonistic in my question framing here because I think we see eye to eye on all this shit. Like, I do think that Bitcoin is the impetus that forces people to think about our current condition in a way where it's like, whoa, what the fuck are we doing? Like, why are we doing it? Like, that's the craziest thing about what's going on right now. It's like we've never had more access to more information in an easier fashion, and nobody wants to question anything. Everybody just wants to go, at least in my observation, most people want to like just go about everything. Like, oh, this is the way things are. This is the way the world is. And it's a fucked up world. I'm fucked up right now too.
It's like Plan B's thing where he's like, in the Weimar Republic, like in Germany, like they thought that everything was increasing. Like they thought their wealth was increasing.
Well, that was the crazy thing talking to Mauricio last week in Venezuela. And that's what...
Yeah, there's
really,
like the Gardner story where like the Gardeners are coming back with like "I love New York" T-shirts.
Yeah, well, and they're buying cars, and the fact that the car is going up in Bolivar prices, like if you sold the car in an international market and like you used the car as a currency, it would have depreciated in purchasing power. But in Venezuela, the amount of bolivars it cost to buy that car went up over time, so people thought their investments were
store value.
Yeah, they thought it was a store value, but
and
it wasn't.
people think that shit in America too. Like we act like we're superior, we're better. No, you fucking talk to your grandma or some shit, and she's like, "I'm not buying that shit. That shit costs $80,000." And you're like, "Yeah, but it's like $80,000 isn't that much anymore. You know, it's like it's what $6,300 used to be to you. You know." Like, we're not better than anybody. We're experiencing fucking inflation right now, too.
Dude, I think about my grandmother. My grandmother is like a boomer. She just graduated. She just graduated from high school like 3 years ago.
Grandma.
Had some weird time lapse. No, but my grandmother retired like 5-6 years ago. But
yeah.
It's like she retired and now she's even like, do I have to get a job? Like, do I have to like get back into the workforce? Like, that's the crazy thing of our current condition is everybody's been fed this mantra like, yo, you go to school, you get a degree, you get a career, you save up money, you get a retirement, you get a pension, and you get to live into perpetuity.
And then you die.
And you but
train your replacement.
But
don't make a fuss. Die in quiet. Don't have any children because they increase climate change.
Sure,
I saw some fucking dumb shit when I was walking around here in Williamsburg, and it was like, this is re-cashmere. It's like fucking 1/4 the carbon footprint of cashmere. I was like, fuck off. Fucking who cares?
Well,
like, who? If the planet exists but we don't exist, fuck the planet. Like, the planet can fucking, die off. As far as I'm concerned. Like, if we're not on the planet exists to serve us.
Dude, the planet doesn't give a fuck about us.
That's
the
what I'm saying.
Been
It'll
around
be fine
for
no matter
billions
what.
of years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it'll be fine.
The planet, like, whether or not we destroy it, we will never destroy the planet. Number one.
Well, yes, we will,
What?
Marty. Because of Bitcoin. You know that. You know that as a fact.
The planet will destroy us.
What on both of you?
The planet will destroy us long before we ever destroy
I
the
don't know.
planet.
I think we might have to like evacuate.
Hey, what
some
about
point.
Greta Thunberg, bro?
You don't think we'll have to evacuate at some point?
Even if we do evacuate, there will still be.
We'll go to like a better star system.
Even
Go
if we
to
go
the
to a better,
Elysium.
the planet will still have like lava flowing through the middle.
But
of
I
it.
think like maybe like the plebs will live on Earth, and then the
He's
rich
got such a
people
despotic
will
like view of the
evacuate
future.
It's just the sci-fi books.
You know what? This is what
It
makes
is
the
like
pod so good. Is
my whole ideology is based on sci-fi.
This is what makes the pod so good. Is like,
made it
Matt is
exist.
eternally pessimistic and Marty is eternally optimistic.
No, I'm
optimistic.
optimistic. I'm just
No, you're
not
not,
optimistic
motherfucker.
about the planet Earth. That's all. But I'm optimistic for humans. I think humans always figure out a way.
I do as well.
We can't not. We gotta fucking survive and thrive.
Yeah,
It's like we
otherwise
can't
we
not.
die. Yeah.
We're trying to find big titty bitches wherever we are.
And then little
Are we?
titties.
Are we the apex predators of Earth though? Like, what if there?
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean,
obviously, but like, what if there was like what would another species above us look like? Would it be an alien species?
probably be robots.
It'd be like the Joe Rogan podcast. I didn't watch it. I didn't listen. I actually watch it now because of the videos.
I like the
can't
video,
listen to it
too.
in podcast.
I've
form
always
anymore.
watched it.
You know what though? You guys are like where the Rogan podcast was like back in 2012, like when it was like wild and free, and you could say whatever the fuck you wanted, you know. And then sponsors creep in, and you have obligations.
No, that's never gonna happen with us.
I don't know, man. I mean,
have
Marty's
sponsors
already
in
out
here.
here like fucking
No, but
interviewing Jack Dorsey and shit. Like Cash App's a sponsor.
But
You know what
I
I
think
mean?
when we get 10x Bitcoin price, like we can just run on donations. We won't do. I don't think we'll need to have sponsors.
I also think 10x Bitcoin price is when Jack Dorsey stops kicking me off Twitter. Like, I think that's when he's like, free speech Twitter for everybody. Like, fuck it. Like, you can say faggot if you want to. Like, it's okay.
Dude, Twitter won't be. Twitter is. And I say this sadly as a shareholder. I don't think Twitter is long in this world. I think that
I know.
I think the key to Twitter discourse is that you can have like pseudonyms in the discourse, so people don't feel like they're exposing their identity, and that gives a more honest discourse. We get things that you would never hear otherwise, and all these centralized platforms like Facebook and Twitter are pushing towards this KYC future.
Yeah.
So we will see stuff like Mastodon eventually take off. Like, unfortunately, it's not there yet.
I fully agree with you.
Uncle Marty's drunk right now, but I want to interject and say, after having sat down with Jack Dorsey and looked him in the eyes, and this is something I'm very big on personally, is like I like to look people in the eyes.
I watched that. It's one of the only Tales for the Crypt you can watch.
Like get an essence of it, like looking him in the eyes. Like, I think he's down for the cause.
Oh, 100%.
Like Twitter in particular. Like, we're talking about Twitter.
But he knows Twitter can't scale.
Well,
This is what Balaji...
let's first, before we go further in this conversation, let's like separate this from like Jack Dorsey, the individual, and talk about these products as they stand. Like, Twitter, in my mind, has been co-opted to a point where, and like, I saw this in Jack's eyes when I was talking with him when I recorded that episode with him. Like, I looked him in the eyes. He was very nostalgic about Twitter as a protocol almost, and
Right.
I think that's what draws him to Bitcoin.
The hashtag. He was like, the users were telling us what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin is still pure in that essence, and that it is still like a...
Can I tell you, I want to tell the
a
Bitcoiners
protocol.
this shit. Like, I got a meeting at Facebook as part of my current job, like where I run influencers. And I don't
Humble brag
I don't
number
say that
54.
shit to humble brag. I say that shit to let you guys know about the shit that goes on there. Like, they don't know what the fuck is going on. They don't know what they're supposed to do. They're trying to bottle the wind and, you know, find what they're supposed to be doing, and they have no fucking idea. And they have this huge campus. It's a mile long. It has all these restaurants that are all free for employees. You know, I walked by Zuckerberg, the whole thing. And
Did you say hi?
nah, he was like way off, and he has security guards around him and shit. But
He's
like,
sicko.
when you sit in a meeting with the Facebook employees, it's a tournament of intellect where, you know, if you use a word like, what was the word I used? Like fucking obfuscate or something. And the other person was like, this motherfucker just said obfuscate. Like, I'm going to have to say
Mirage.
you're right. Like, it's so stupid. And they don't know what they're doing, and they don't know where they're heading. And, you know, you're asking them like, hey, I'm trying to build a product on top of your product, like, which is shifting quicksand. Like, what the fuck do I do? And they're like, here's the thing. We feel you, guy. We have no fucking idea. Just wing it. You know? And you're like, okay, cool. So these platforms are not long for this world. Like, they're going to be demolished, you know, ultimately.
Is it like an AOL-like system at a different part of the stack for what
You
AOL
would be a
is?
complicated AOL system. Like, it's like AOL if AOL had figured out how to embed itself. But yeah, I mean, it's archaic. It's they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They have no idea how to run a protocol. They have no idea what the fuck they're doing. And it sucks as like somebody who's trying to build something on top of their platform. Like, you know, I have one of the channels I run has 2 million followers on their shit, and they can't give me any inclination of where things are heading. And so I'm like, well, what should I do? Should I go to YouTube? Should I abandon ship? You know, I don't know.
Well, that's sort of been like the interesting thing about Facebook in particular is it's grown into like a very big ad network, probably
Huge.
only like Google's the only rival to it right now at this point. And they have a they basically are gatekeepers to who and who cannot advertise on their platform, and Facebook in particular, like, is in this weird spot where like Zuck is such a weird front man. Like you can tell.
Oh my God.
We're smoking meats. We're here. We're smoking meats.
Poor guy. That one live stream is just gotten killed on that one.
That shit was awkward as fuck. Like it was super awkward.
You just can't.
Sweet Baby Ray's.
They got the second they started fucking with the time feed, like the timeline and shit.
Well, no,
is where they became liable.
Here's the point.
Because like the Facebook did it first. They did the algorithmic news feed,
Exactly.
and now Twitter started doing it. So now they're responsible for the content.
All right.
That's the key, right?
So I found my train of thought. I'm sorry, Uncle Marty's really drunker now. But the point I was trying to make is that Facebook was knowingly marketing their future product as, hey, we want to be the complete internet for people around the world. Like when you go onto Facebook, like that is the internet. You do not go from Facebook to Twitter to a Chrome browser to search shit. You go to Facebook and you find your daily weather. You find your stock prices.
They were trying to be a walled garden.
Exactly.
100%.
And that is like their
Which
whole...
was, yeah.
And it just doesn't scale.
They were trying to be an intranet, basically, you know.
But that is
a
what...
public blockchain, if you will.
But the point I'm trying to drive... like,
Private blockchain, sorry.
But that is what Facebook wants to be at the end of the day, is they want to be that walled garden, closed loop experience of the internet. They want to be internet of what people interact with.
It was like Kenya or someplace. Like they think that Facebook is the internet. Forget where it was, but it's like
I know, like they tried to roll out a plan in India, right? That was like free internet, but only if you only use Facebook.
No, it's one of these
and
African countries. Like the people there think it's Facebook is the internet.
Well, they've done multiple campaigns. One of which was they launched the satellites, which are
right.
Which are giving out internet access over certain geographics.
Marty was showing us with his arms.
He was like, "Caca, caca."
The satellites were moving.
All right,
like a albatross.
I'm gonna chug. I'm gonna chug some water and take a piss. I'll be right back.
All right, do it.
Should we? How long have we been here?
It's been a little bit. Like,
should we wrap this up?
2.5 hours.
15 minutes.
Like, I enjoyed this conversation. I think that we have hit a climax of a bit, and maybe we should, end it on top.
I'm okay with that. Let's wrap.
We're not going 6.15 hours, and we're definitely not going 615.
That's crazy.
We have
it should be 650 million sats. I fucked up.
We have 131 hours and 6 minutes and 52 seconds of recording.
I see that Marty also bought the 256 gigabyte card.
No, gentlemen, this has been a pleasure. I'm very drunk right now. American Hodl, I may have to edit out some lapse in thought from this episode, but it's been an incredible jump into your psyche. Thank you for doing what you do. Dude. Thank you for flying out here.
Of course.
It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Listen, boys, there's nobody. There's nobody else in the world who I would fly out for free. My wife was like, "How much you getting paid?" I was like, "What do you mean you're getting paid?" I'm like spending like $2,000 to do this. She was like, are you serious? Because she sees me coming back with $10,000 or $15,000. I was like, "Listen, woman, you need to shut the fuck up. These men are worth it. They're important. I like them. They're future stacking-aires, okay?"
Satoshi billionaires,
Mrs. Hodl, I want you to know that I appreciate you. And thank you for departing from your husband for a few hours tonight to drink whiskey.
I love that it happened because there was a tweet back and forth where someone called you out, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, you're gonna go on TFTC, you're gonna fly out there, and that's gonna happen. And you're like, deal. And they were recorded.
Oh, dude, we gotta also talk about our bet we have about Satoshi's coins moving in 2020.
I forgot. Yeah, that was.
We have a Tulip Trust bet here.
We have $1 million. Me and Matt have $1 million sats.
Because you're an idiot.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it's because of Craig Wright or whatever the fuck. Obviously,
Seemed like a Craig Wright.
No. The Craig Wright thing comes from something else that
What's the bet? What's the terms?
Both
January 2020.
Both me and Craig Wright have forgotten that there was an original Reddit talk forum post about 2020 that we're both
talk?
Yeah, that were Reddit. It was Reddit at the time that we were both referencing, Craig and myself. And everybody seems to have forgotten it except me and Craig. And Matt was like, wisely, like, hey, shut the fuck up. That's not going to happen. I was like, shit. Somebody called me on it. All right, I'm going to have to pony up 1 million sats. But you know what? Matt is the second sats master, and there's nobody that I would rather pony up 1 million sats.
Wait, so what's the terms of the bet? When is
the terms of the bet are if Sushis doesn't move his coins by January 1st, 2021, I have to send you 1 million sats.
So I'm good.
Yeah, you're basically like
3 million.
It's 98.
That was a great deal.
It's 98% that you won the bet.
The funniest part is like there was like 1 million people underneath me who were like, "Yo, give me the same odds." He was like, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you." He wouldn't let anyone have the same odds.
It's only for Matt. It's only for Matt because of stacking sats.
And no,
all right?
I called you out first.
No, it's because of stacking sats. Yeah. Fuck your mom. It's because of stacking sats. Okay.
How would you describe stacking sats to the layman?
Okay, let me talk to you motherfuckers about stacking sats. Stacking sats is the greatest meme that's ever existed in your goddamn plebeian lives. You pieces of shit. You need to go out and stack as many sats as you possibly fucking can because there aren't many sats left to be stacked, okay? Matthew here gave you a fucking service when he told you to stack those motherfuckers. Because what he did was he took Huddle and he made it from passive to active. That's big dick energy, y'all. And he told you pieces of shit to stack those sats, and you need to stack them. You need to stack them fucking right and stack them fucking hard. All right, fuck yourselves. I've been drinking Angel's Envy, which Bitcoin Tina told me to drink, and I drank it. Bitcoin Tina, go fuck yourself. I feel you though, dog. Like, let's do this thing.
Peace and love, freaks.
Stay humble, stack sats.